All right. Good evening, everybody. How are we doing? Good to see everybody here tonight. Thank you for making it a very special night. Of course, we got going to have David Souza from Corbin Cash with us tonight. So looking forward to that. And also going to be giving away some samples of their stuff tonight. So thank you for coming here tonight and hanging out. Let me just do a quick cheers through the chat here. We had Big Head Bourbon in early. Thank you for showing up 3 hours early. That's awesome, man. Appreciate you. The Turks here as well. Cheers to you guys. John Kranz, Hanging AZ. Cheers to all you guys. Dano B. Cheers to all you great folks. And hopefully you guys have some questions for David as well. Of course, I'll ask him some general questions as we go through tonight. But feel free. Man, it's been a long day. Feel free to drop questions in the chat, and we'll try and get those answered as we go through as well. I also got Scott here, Fifth Quarter Tailgate. Good to see you, man. And Chris Tats. We're going international. How you doing, Chris? I assume Lil is probably at work. If not, then, cheers to both of you either way. And then there's Big Head Bourbon checking back in. And what's this? They played a blackened video before you're live. Hi. There you go. For sure. That makes sense. Cheers to AZ. All right, well, let's bring on the man himself. Here he is, David Souza. Thank you again, David, for joining us. Appreciate it very much, man. I don't know if you saw behind you here, but already enjoying the stuff you sent me quite a bit.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah. So actually took the 90 proof rye and the blended whiskey to the Kentucky meetup. Which was just a bunch of folks from various Kentucky and various states. Actually, Chris Tats from Australia was there as well, and his wife Lilith. So quite a few people got to try that stuff. So that was cool. So yeah, about a third of both those bottles disappeared there. But
That's good. Well, when it disappears, they like it. So that's always good.
Yeah, everybody was really interested in both. But I would say now personally, I'm partial to the rye, but everybody really was blown away by how different the blended whiskey was, which, I mean, it is a very unique profile for sure. So before we get into each one of those, I just want to kind of ask you, how your family got into farming and then just kind of transitioned into, of course, you're still farming, but, getting into the distillery, all that stuff.
Yeah, so my great-grandfather immigrated from Portugal back in 1917, came through Boston. He was 16 years old, came by himself, landed in Boston, took a train out to California. He worked in the Santa Cruz silver mines. He mined silver for about 6 months, where he saved up enough money to come out a little bit into the valley and bought a little piece of land and started farming. Which we always joke is like Santa Cruz is really close to Carmel, and we could have had farming on the beachfront, but he came out to the arid Central Valley where we began farming sweet potatoes and rye. And so those have been our two staples for the last 105 years. The rye was really just our rotational crop. He planted it in the winter and left it all summer. So out here, it's real arid and dry. So the wind would blow and it would just really help the topsoil from moving around. And so for 90 years, we just harvested the rye to replant it the next year up until I started distilling it. And then the sweet potatoes have just been, that's kind of was our staple money maker, how we kind of survived as a family farm.
Very cool, man. Yeah. So, did the review of both the ryes this week just to kind of get some attention going for the live stream. And that way people kind of know what to expect. And reading on the back of your label there that I didn't know this, but apparently Merced Rye's roots go down really far, kind of bringing up stuff that's necessary to kind of keep that next year's crop going. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and it's funny, we always, like my great-grandfather planted it. And Merced Rye is actually it's a varietal of rye that's specific really to our California area. It's a really drought tolerant rye. We don't get a lot of rain out here, so we don't irrigate it typically. So the last 105 years, we've had to irrigate it 3 times because the drought was so bad. But it wasn't until the 90s when we were actually like digging up a pipeline that we found out that the root system actually goes down 13 feet and mines up all of the nitrogen and the potash fertilizer that surpasses the sweet potato roots and brings that back up to the surface. So that's why the sweet potatoes would always do better where the rye was. But it literally was like, 80 something years later when we figured that out.
So kind of a nice surprise then. That's
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's like,
And,
it does, but you don't know why. So then it's like, it's a little more knowledge. So it's always cool.
Now, so to my understanding, you guys started first distilling the sweet potatoes, correct?
Well, I actually started distilling both at the same time. So
Okay.
initially it was, I have no formal training. I just literally bought a book off the internet. I made a still out of an old beer keg and some copper pipe, purchased some little parts, and then kind of put the still together and did it in my garage. So I was doing both really simultaneously, because I started with sweet potatoes, but there was no recipes for sweet potatoes. Nobody was distilling them. So then I was having problems. So then I was like, okay, well, let me try this rye. And that had 100% rye, obviously has its own challenges, but at least gave me kind of the outlet of like, okay, I could kind of follow a beer recipe. So then I started kind of taking those same trends with the sweet potatoes. But the biggest issue with the sweet potatoes was it was taking 25 pounds of sweet potatoes to make one fifth of vodka or whiskey or spirit. And it being I'm no chemist, it took me a couple of years of trial and error and then to understand why that was happening. And then once I kind of figured that out, I was like, oh, okay, this makes sense. And then I built a full-fledged distillery at that point.
So, if you don't mind to get into that, so what were the whys as to why it was giving you such a low yield?
So the low yield was so when most people understand sweet potatoes as being a little more healthy for you than a standard potato. Diabetics can eat them; they don't spike your blood sugar because of the complex carbohydrates. So the complex carbohydrates being complex and your body not breaking them down, well, the yeast couldn't break them down either. So just like with rye, 100% rye, we had to use very specific enzymes in the mash, in the cooking and fermentation process to get that to break down. And then once I was able to figure out those enzymes, then we went from 25 pounds of sweet potatoes to make a fifth to about 12 pounds. So I was able to cut that. And over the years, we've been able to dial that in with different varieties and kind of squeeze that down lower. I'm always trying to tweak it, to get more volume.
For sure. Yeah, so I'm actually sipping on the sweet potato liqueur right now.
Okay.
And what I appreciate about this, because I'm not a big liqueur guy typically, but I like that it's not so like overpoweringly sweet. Because a lot of liqueurs out on the market are just like candy, like more sweeter than even candy. Like it's just like almost grossly sweet. And this is, you can actually sip it on its own, and it's it doesn't like just destroy your palate with just a sugar blast. So yeah, and also it's got a lot more complexity than your typical liqueur. So you want to just talk about how you guys kind of came about putting this together?
Yeah, so it was kind of, we made the world's first sweet potato vodka, and I just really wanted to make the world's first sweet potato whiskey. So we started barrel aging sweet potato alcohol. And so instead of distilling it like vodka at like 190 proof, we would distill it more like whiskey and brandy, leaving it somewhere between 140 and 160 proof, barrel age it at 120. And then now we're at 5 years. So a lot of sweet potato barrels we have are between 5 and 8 years old. And so we would get that real whiskey complexity with the uniqueness of the sweet potato. And so after 4 years, I'm like, okay, I want to get this registered. So I put in for the label with the TTB, and the TTB's like, well, you can't call it whiskey. It's not from grain. And I'm like, well, what are you talking about? Like, it's barrel aged. I've got records. Like, they're just like, well, yeah, you can't call it whiskey. There's no such thing as a sweet potato whiskey. The funny thing was, I'm pretty like, you tell me I can't do something, I'm going to figure it out. So I started doing some research, and I found a whiskey in Colorado called 303 whiskey that was actually made from potatoes. And so I'm like, hi, I got you guys. You have to give this to me. So I called the TTB agent, and I'm like, hey, I'm emailing you over these screenshots, but you guys have already approved a potato whiskey, and it's in Colorado. And he's like, really? He's like, so I sent it over to him. And so like 3 weeks later, I hear back from the TTB, and they're like, well, here's the conclusion. That was a mistake. And if you want to fight this, we're going to make him pull his label off the market. And I'm like, okay, so I'm not going to be that guy. So then I had all this barrel aged sweet potato alcohol. And so our first initial was, what are we going to do with it? And my mom makes these really good, they're delicious. They're called sweet potato squares, and they have cinnamon, vanilla, nutmeg, and all of these, little allspice in them. And so I was like, you know what if we take those spices and we kind of make this like sweet potato pie liqueur, but I don't want it to be sweet. I'm not a sweet drinker. I do not drink liqueurs. I'm not a big sugar fan, but I was like, to be a liqueur, you have to have a minimum of 2% sugar. So that's what we did. And so when I kind of compared that to how an old fashioned tastes, it was very similar amount of sugar.
Right.
So I was like, look, let's just do the minimum amount of sugar. We'll put these nice natural spices in it on a barrel aged product. And like this time of year, it's really flying off the shelf. It does really, you have a bottle.
Yeah.
When you smell it, you're like, oh, this smells like Thanksgiving, right?
Yeah, very much fall flavors. Yeah, it's certainly perfect for Thanksgiving.
We get a lot of drink menus this time of year with like a split base old fashioned. Use an ounce of whiskey and an ounce of sweet potato liqueur in your old fashioned, and we get a ton of that. But it took a little bit to get people used to it, but once they're like, because it's always the reaction, oh, I'm not really a liqueur guy, and I'm like, the standard liqueur is 20 to 30% sugar. This is 2%. So once they taste it, they're like, oh, this is actually workable. So we've changed a lot of bartenders' minds with it, just the fact that it doesn't have a lot of sugar.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. And I appreciate that. As you were kind of saying, very similar to myself. I'm not big on really sugary drinks, and so I appreciate that it was very low on the sweet scale and much more enjoyable to me than most liqueurs. So yeah, a very nice liqueur. But now moving on to your blended whiskey, which I think is excellent and just so unique. I mean, compared to what else is on the market, I can't think of anything else that has a profile even close to what this is. So I guess, just kind of walk us through that as well and how you guys came up with that.
Yeah. So again, it was one of those things, how I was like, well, they told me I can't call it whiskey. So I was doing some more research, and I found this kind of a loophole in blended whiskey that says back, and I think this came about during Prohibition, is what I kind of found out, is whiskey was short, right? They hadn't been making it at least legally, so there wasn't a lot of whiskey available. So with blended whiskey, you could actually blend up to 80% of neutral spirit into a blended whiskey. Well, that's what they consider our sweet potato alcohol, is a neutral spirit, even though we barrel age it. And so that's why it was such a big struggle to sell in the beginning. I think a lot of people thought we were just putting the vodka in there. And I'm like, no, this stuff's actually aged 4, 5, 6 years. And then we blend it, we barrel blend. So we distill them separately, and then we do a barrel blend. And initially we were doing an 80-20 blend of sweet potato and 20% rye. And then it's kind of morphed over the years. It's still never less than like 75% sweet potato, but we really want to blend on flavor profile to keep that unique flavor profile that you're talking about. But the sweet potato, I'm not sure if you taste it, but if you're tasting it just like a vodka, it's got a little bit of butterscotch notes, but you also get a little bit of nuttiness. And so it's funny because the sweet potatoes that we use, we raise 10 different varieties, but the ones that I use in the distilling process, when you talk to chefs about them, part of their profile is nuttiness, and that kind of comes through a little bit with that butterscotch note. And people always ask me, why has it got this nutty flavor? That comes from that actual sweet potato. So it gives it this really unique profile. That's, and, talk about tasting the, I feel like a lot of people too, there's, even in the rye, sometimes they ask why our rye, the Merced rye, is a little bit sweeter. And I think that comes down to when you talk about wine grapes and they talk about the terroir, the ground and what it does to the grape. I think it does the same thing for us here, because all of our land that we put rye on, we also grow sweet potatoes on. And at the end of like right now, we just finished harvest today, and you go out in some of the fields and there'll be tons of sweet potatoes that were too small or broken and didn't get harvested, and all that gets disked back into the ground. And that flavor profile is all in that soil, and it's coming back up through the spirit as well. So
awesome. Yeah. Everybody watching, just want to mention, so we got doing double sample giveaways tonight. So Patreons, all these right here are going out to one Patreon. So that is 1 ounce samples of everything that David and Sarah sent me. So the bourbon, the cast strength rye, the 90 proof rye, the sweet potato liqueur, and the blended whiskey that I'm sipping on right now, which is almost gone, but I already got my samples packed up. That way I didn't drink it all before the stream. So there's that, guy. So for those of you that are not Patreons, it's not too late. You can sign up and get entered for that. And also, if you just want to, there's a 2 ounce sample, which is already boxed up. There they are. There's all 5 right there. Another way. Yeah, so there you go. Another way to get samples of the Corbin Cash stuff, because I know it is hard to get. So, and again, $5 PayPal Cash App. There you go, to get some samples. Yeah, so there is how to get entered both ways with the double giveaway tonight. So, and that way you get to try some of this great stuff we're talking about. And thank you, David, again, for being so generous with that, so I can share it, because I was expecting little samples and you said full bottles. So that was a very nice surprise. And I'm happy that I got to share at the Kentucky meetup. And speaking of that, so that's why I've had this comment highlighted. So Chris and his wife Lilith are in Australia.
okay.
So that's what he's talking about, getting a pallet shipped. So
we can ship international.
Okay.
So I actually have some friends in Australia as well. If they're already shipping something, just get a hold of us. You can give them our email, and we can help them work on that to get it over there.
Okay. Yeah. So Chris, I'll get you the email over once we're off stream here. And for folks, so it should be pinned at the top of the chat anyway, but there is the link again. So for anyone in the States, that you should be able to order that way. David will work something out so you can get some of this great stuff. But anyway, so back to this. So I believe Chris and let's see who else was there that's in chat. Not seeing. Anyway, so quite a few people got to try both this and the rye. And as you can see, it also is almost gone. The wife really likes this as well, so it's been going pretty quickly. But I just love how interesting this flavor profile is, and the nosing and tasting notes are just so unique. So you were mentioning the kind of the nuttiness, and then as well you got kind of those clove notes and anise kind of coming through from the rye, and so like that combination is just really interesting to me.
Yeah, originally before we made a bourbon, we kind of felt like the sweet potato alcohol after it was barrel aged was very reminiscent of bourbon, but like a little bit sweeter than the rye, but it has its own unique notes. So we always kind of like taunted it as it's bourbon-esque, but it's definitely different than bourbon. And then we ended up making a bourbon. So
which is great. For it only being a 4-year bourbon, that has much more complexity than most 4-year bourbons that are on the market right now. So that was another great surprise. Maybe we'll move to that next before we get into the Merced Rye, because I feel like the Merced Rye, especially once we get into the barrel proof, that's so complex and just thick and mouth coating that I don't think the bourbon will quite stand up to that afterwards. So probably better do the bourbon first. Let's see here. Can you post the link to Ken AC? Oh, yeah. Okay. So that's a different thing. Let's see here. Just kind of going through. There's Scott. Scott from Shane. There's a lot of claims around. Okay. Better. Okay. You guys are talking about other things. Happy to make Corbin Cash International. Yes, for sure. Yeah. We need to bring more attention to David and his great distillery. So here, let me go ahead and finish this. Also, cheers, Eric. How we doing? And anybody else I missed that's coming. Cool running. Good to see you guys. There you go. So that sweet 1917 rye is incredible. Yeah, for sure. I love it myself. So Bobby, of course, he's out in California, so he's getting pics of the stuff, which I envy. But I'm gonna talk with you afterwards to see about how we can make work out getting that done. For me, the single barrel, it's. I keep hearing. I mean, I love this, so I can't imagine what an 8-year pick would be like. So
yeah, we'll get you one. We'll get you one. Don't worry.
And then, so AZ has this question. Please ask David how he came up with the awesome design for the Merced Rye bottle.
Yeah, so it's funny that we worked on that on the round. You're talking about the round bottle or the square? I'm assuming you mean
good question. So I know he has this one.
Okay.
So I guess he means that. I'm not sure though.
Yeah. So that bottle was actually designed from one of the first brands that I created, vodka brand. I never really wanted to be in the vodka business. My goal was initially I was gonna make sweet potato vodka, sell that brand, and then just be in the whiskey game. Of course, that didn't happen, and we're still in the vodka game. But I created a brand called High Roller Vodka that I was selling in Las Vegas, and when we designed that bottle, it came. So if you look at those knurls on the side of the bottle, that mimics the inside of a craps table. That's where the whole design came from. And so after we switched and we kind of did away with that brand and we still love this bottle, I was like, well, how can we make it look at more whiskey and look at more craft? And so that's when we decided to paper label it. And we fell in love with it. Like, we didn't want to get rid of it, but we wanted to make it look a little more like classic. And so with the paper, with the nice knurls in it, and it's done really well for us. So I'm glad you guys like it.
Yeah, I think not just this design, which is a beautiful bottle. I mean, one of the better looking bottles on the market, but then this one too is just super cool. So how did you guys come about with kind of getting, because it's hard to even describe the shape of this because it's not square. It's
so it's funny, so. Like that bottle. So the company, my glass is made in Italy. So we use a company in Italy to make our glass. And when we were working on our bottle, I actually saw that in their lineup, and I was like, I fell in love with it. And I'm like, I'm gonna put something in this. Like, one day I'm gonna use this bottle. And it wasn't until like 10 years later when we came out with our cash strength, I was like, you know what, that's what we're gonna put in this bottle. And now, like, then we were like, oh, all of our high proof whiskeys are going in it now. So,
and speaking of, let's go ahead and switch over to the bourbon here. So, Yeah. I am loving this stuff. Clearly, it's about halfway gone with, and I've been trying to nurse these little bottles because I know I don't want them to go away. But yeah, so 4 years sour mash, obviously, and then make sure I get 106 proof, which I think is just a great proof point in general. That's kind of where if I'm sipping, let's say daily, that's kind of where I'm at, in that 100 to 110 range generally, and then throw cask strength in there sometimes. But yeah, so a nice proof point for sure. And so I know that just based on previous conversations with you that you're more of a rye guy. Is that correct to say?
Yeah,
So,
definitely. I wasn't a
go.
bourbon. That's why we never really had intention to make a bourbon. But then so many people are like, when are you going to make a bourbon? And I'm like, well, I'm not a real sweet, like to me, bourbon's always been kind of more sweet. Of course, I grew up in the Central Valley of California. We didn't have a lot of selection of what bourbon was. And then as I stumbled onto more sour mash bourbons that really fit my palate, that I really loved, and understanding them, because my only sour mash I'd ever had was Jack Number 7, and until I got into some better stuff, and then it was like, okay, so maybe this is doable, and it's not as sweet, and so that's what we figured. Well, we'll try to make something a little less sweet. And so we went with a 65% corn mash bill, a 25% rye, and then some extra malt. And so that's kind of where the premise of it came from. And but we barrel aged this instead of normally we do 110 proof. We did this we normally do our rye at 120. We did the bourbon at 110. And then we had a little more of a controlled climate, because by the time we started doing this, I had a little more knowledge under my belt. So we kind of had a little more temperature control with this one. So we could keep the proof from spiking up super high, because out here in California, we typically evaporate water before alcohol. So our proofs go up really, really high. And this one, we kept a little more humidity on it, which actually gave it more kind of what you guys are used to in Kentucky, evaporating and proofs going down. So we wanted to kind of make a true to style bourbon. And, at 4 years, I was a little nervous that if we left it a little longer, and we didn't have a whole lot of it. So I was like, you know what, let's just pull it now and see how it does. So now I'm kind of wishing I'd have left some barrels to go a little longer, because everybody's like, when you doing a 5 or 10? I'm like,
oh, so this is it. You pulled all of them.
Longer.
Okay. No, you mentioned there's a little more malt in this than your typical mash bill, and that really comes through. I get a lot more butterscotch notes in this than most bourbons. It's not quite as heavy, brown sugars, which is kind of a nice change of pace, because a lot of bourbons on the market are kind of that profile.
Yeah.
So this being a little bit different is nice. Just in general, I can just kind of say as a blanket statement across the board, that's what I appreciate most about Corbin Cash, is that each one of your profiles is different from whatever the competition is on the market. And I can't wait to get into the rye, because I don't know who all's in chat, but there's quite a few here that are big fans of the MGP, the 95.5, and it's everywhere. Almost most of the ryes we see on the shelf are 95.5 rye. And I just love how different the Corbin Cash rye is, in this bourbon too. It's just it reminds me somewhat of some of the single malts, American single malts that are coming out. There's some of that kind of in this profile, which I really appreciate.
Yeah, part of it could be too the type of corn we use. So my cousins, they're kind of cousins by marriage. They farm white corn out here. So the corn that we have near to us it's a white corn. It's raised. It's mainly raised for tortilla chips and flour tortillas. So that's the corn that we use for it. So it also has a little bit different flavor profile than a typical yellow corn that you would get in the Midwest, and that's kind of it. Like, I always want to be different. It's like, you don't want to be so far different that it's completely a new category. You still need that familiarness, so people can, like, yeah, this is a bourbon, but kind of put our own stamp on it. Because it's like, there's so many in the marketplace. You got to kind of get yourself out there, be a little bit different.
Yeah, I mean, and it's definitely, I don't want people to get the wrong impression like it's totally not bourbon. It's definitely bourbon. It's a nice kind of new, fresh take on, because there's so many out there that are quite similar, and so I appreciate the little bit different profile. So, real quick, let's see here. Had a couple interesting things here. Okay, so first off, thank you, Bobby, for putting in. Bobby, just let me know if you want those two to go towards the Patreon or the other giveaway. That way I know where I'm putting those. There's Ben. Cheers to you. Anybody else got questions for David? Let's see here. Looks like 19. Deco to me. Okay, so yeah, that's I'll give you that. So bottle looks like 1920s Art Deco to me, very sharp. Yeah, I agree. I was going to try Sphere Ginger. Okay, so doing a little mixed drinks there. Sounds good. Different and very good, BadX says. Yeah, I would agree. I'm very biased. Yeah, to me, so let's go ahead and get into the rye, because that's really
well, that's our staple. Yeah,
and I think it's certainly the star of the show. I mean, to me, this for a 90 proof. I mean, because there's tons of MGP 95.5 out there that's around the same proof point. I was kind of thinking before the stream, just kind of price point and proof point, what this bottle's competition is. So so you have Rendezvous Rye. Sagamore's got a whole line out. What else did I have in mind? Had a bunch to mention earlier, but so Michter's is around that price point as well. And I think this, I think it's more mouth coating than all those. I think it has the flavor notes that I'm after. I love. So to me, MGP usually comes across as bright and kind of typically kind of young tasting. And I love the darker notes that this rye provides, like kind of those darker, richer caramel notes, which is kind of unique to find in a rye, but while also not being overly sweet, as you were mentioning earlier. And there's almost like a smoky grilled kind of note in there, which I think is really interesting. I mean, there's so many things about this rye that it was so unique. I mean, on first sip. So yeah, just kind of tell us about how you kind of came about. Now, is it, so I guess first off, is it just kind of the Merced rye? Is it the profile, or is it things you kind of did to tweak and get this?
I think it's
profile?
a little bit of both, maybe. I think just in general, Merced rye is just different than your standard Midwestern Canadian rye. So our mash bill being 100%, but the Merced rye is it's a smaller rye seed. There's less starch, and I think the fact that it doesn't get rained on, it doesn't get rained on. It doesn't get a lot of water throughout its lifespan because of our arid climate here. So it stresses the plant, which I think gives it a little bit different nuances. We see that even with the sweet potatoes on flavor profiles on ground that has been a bit sandier than heavier ground. And it goes right back to that terroir thing that the wineries talk about. And I never believed in that stuff really until I started doing this, and then really diving into tasting the sweet potatoes and even cooking the rye, and tasting it against, like, I would purchase Midwestern rye and Canadian rye and just cook them up just like you would a bowl of cream of wheat. I would make this creamy rye, and I would taste the profiles. And it's funny, they each taste completely different. And that's kind of why you taste the difference in the whiskey itself. I think the things that we had control over is the type of yeast that we use, and then also that can help kind of accentuate some of the flavor profiles, but also that the barrels that we use and the way we char them is probably a little bit longer than most people do. Our barrels are a little bit, you can buy Midwestern barrels. We can pick up for about $275 to $300 each. We're using our barrels are actually made here in California. They are Kentucky oak. Our cooperage has their own forest out in Kentucky, but they bring the wood out here. They season it for 3 years, and then we do an extra char on them to really get the flavor compounds that we're looking for. I think it's a little bit of both.
Yeah, and so that extra, just kind of, so like, say for instance, Wild Turkey uses a level 4 char. So where are you guys kind of at in that scale, or is it kind of a whole different thing? Or
no, it's kind of like we do a combo of, like, so in the beginning it was all level 5 char. We were doing all level 5s, but then what I noticed here is also part of our aging process, which we were talking about before we were on, is the heat that we have here. So the heat that we have is we age really quickly. We get a lot of rich color early on. In 2 years, our 2-year-old rye, like if you pulled it out of the barrel and you looked at it, you'd think like, man, this is like a 4 or 5-year-old whiskey. Doesn't taste good, but it sure looks good. But it wasn't until, like, that's why we didn't release anything really young. Like, you can have a 2-year-old straight rye, but we never had the profile that we wanted. Yeah. So everything was 48 months. And then now we don't have anything less than 5 years. That's kind of our sweet spot. But after 5, we have to really pay attention to where barrels are at in the rick house and the temperature of that rick house, because of we can actually over oak. I've had a few barrels that I've thought were over oaked, and what happens is that rye surpasses that char in the barrel, and it starts bringing those raw tannins back in the wood, and then that raw tannin gets just a little bitey. And if your barrel's 6 or 7 years old, your charcoal's kind of spent as a filter, right? It's been done. So you're not going to get that fixed. And so my first experience with that was on my first 6-year barrel. I'm like, this isn't right. Like, the average person probably wouldn't notice it. I took the barrel apart, cut up the wood. We kind of figured we could see where the whiskey was at. And so that's when I realized, I'm like, okay, we can't just let our whiskey sit for 10 years and it's going to be okay. Like a whistle pig up in Canada or in Vermont, where it's cold 6 months out of the year. So we really have to dial in our temperatures in our rick houses so we don't do that over oaking.
So, I mean, maybe not quite to the degree, but it sounds like, just based on discussions I've seen people have with Texas distilleries, it seems like you guys are kind of having those same issues to deal with a kind of more arid climate and huge temperature swings. And so, the whiskey's just moving all over the place. Yeah.
Moves all over. And if you're not careful, you can evaporate a barrel, man. Like we did a lot of single barrels this year. We released a single barrel program, and there was a couple we pulled out that only had like 19 gallons in them. I'm like, oh, that's just like, oh, I'm like, that sucks.
Yeah. So now, are you using the typical, what is it, 253? Is that 253 gallon barrels, or am I way off here? What size barrels are you guys using?
So we use 53s, and we do. So 53s, and we have 59s. So we have both. So our company here in near us that we buy our barrels from, their standard barrel is a 59, but they'll make, when they have time, they'll make 53s for us. But in the beginning, we were using barrels from like Kelvin and ISC, and then our company in Fresno. And then over the years, we started to see what those flavor profiles and how they were different. And then honestly, we're always trying to think of sustainability and trying to be kind of the whole carbon footprint thing. And so we were just seeing really good luck with the barrels made here locally. And so we just kind of have stuck with it.
Awesome, man. So I don't worry, got the 2 in front of the 53, but anyway, that would be a massive barrel.
Yeah.
As I said,
well, you might be thinking 253 liters, which probably could be about that. I'm trying to think.
I wish I were that smart to do the conversion. No, I think it's just been a long week, as I was
long
telling
week.
you, and my brain's not quite at 100%. But anyway, so then, and I knew this question was going to come up. So, what is the future for distribution plans? So,
well, we're with Southern, which is Southern Wine and Spirits, which is the biggest distributor in the country. So that's hopeful. I think right now it's just our focus has just really been California mainly because it's such an animal of a state and we want to really be able to drive home our business. But our next 2 years, we've been looking at going into other states. So, I mean, we want to be a national brand. We just we don't want to make the same mistakes we've seen a lot of brands do and go too wide. Too fast because it's financially crippling. So just trying to keep the smart route. So, and again, nobody in my family has ever been in the liquor business. So this is just kind of all new. Like this was my brainchild. And so I've literally had to figure this all out on my own. And so, sometimes I'm so frustrated, and a lot of people are like, dude, you're still in business after 13 years, give yourself some props. Because he goes, that's it's definitely challenging, but
I'm sure.
But with guys like you getting us out there and really being a fan and just spreading the word, that's the best thing we can have for us, is really getting people who are just really enjoy it and spread the word. So, but we want to be a national brand. We want to represent, we want to represent the whiskey world. I feel like we have a good product. It's a real story. And, I feel like every state has their, Tennessee has Jack, Kentucky has a ton of distilleries, but Jim Beam, we would like to be that California distillery that's kind of that unique farm to bottle with a real story, that's true.
Yeah. I feel like, David, that in a few years, once your distribution has expanded, I feel like Corbin Cash Merced Rye is going to be the talking point in the rye world instead of MGP. Because, to me, it's just worlds apart. And it's nothing against MGP. I think they make a nice product.
Yeah.
It's just that I think this is better across everything about it. I think it's a more interesting profile. I think the way that you guys are charring your barrels and the wood presence in it is more interesting. It gives it more depth. I assume it probably adds some viscosity, mouth coatingness to it. And I like a lot of wood presence in my whiskeys in general. And so, can't wait to get to the big dog here. That was one of the first things that really took me back when I first tried the cast strength, is how much oak presence there was in this rye, because I'd never had a rye that had that much char and oak presence, which I like that. I like to taste the barrel some, and not in a bad way, not like it was tannic or anything like that. Just it's there. I like that. This was aged in a barrel, and that was really nice to see.
Yeah, and it's funny because people always ask me, what's the difference between the 90 proof and the 1917, and I said water. It's the It's the exact same whiskey. The only difference is water. And it's crazy because how much water takes away that profile, right? It's like the 90 proof is so, it's smooth, it's really good. But you go to the big dog at the 123, and that's kind of like where the profile is on the 5.25 years, 5.5 years. And so when we would do our farm tours, we would do a barrel tasting. And the whole reason we made the 1917 was I had a bunch of like people come through, majority of them women, doing these farm tours, and they would ask, can we just buy this what I'm tasting out of this barrel? And I'm like, you mean like at high proof like that? So they're like, yes, the flavor, it's all the flavor is like, it's like, I don't even want to drink the 90 proof now that I've had this one. And I'm like, okay, like, so, it got me thinking like, maybe we need to do this. And now it's become our number one seller. Like, we go into stores, like Sean, our salesperson in the South, he goes into stores and he's like, okay, I got this retail for 50 and I got this retail for 100. And the stores are like, oh yeah, we just want that one. We just want the big dog. It's because the flavor profile is just so unreal.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
But yeah, it's crazy. It's really the only difference is the water. Yeah. They're the same barrel, same aging process. Just dilution dilutes the flavor.
Yeah. So 21090 here, significantly bigger channel than myself. And Todd, which I know this is Todd in chat, he is a rye guy. So Todd, I'm going to have to send you some of this because you're going to love it, man. And I'm going to have to get you in contact with David because you guys need to have David on. And I think you're really going to love this rye. So I'll have to send you guys some stuff. Well, maybe we'll do it in like a blind or something. You're gonna love this. Yeah. Like it's so much different than any rye I had before this. And again, I think it's just the different variety of rye, the what you're doing with your barrels, possibly some age differences as well. Because I feel like a lot of the ryes on the market are kind of young. And so I appreciate that you guys are taking the time to wait until the right. Here, let me finish. I hate to just kind of pound it down, but I want to get to the cast drink because it's a wild ride.
Well, I think that's part of the challenge. You mentioned young ryes. There is a lot of young ryes out there, and I think it's such a it's kind of this up and coming category over the years, and a lot of craft distilleries are trying to make their mark, and they're like, oh, straight rye in 2 years. But rye is just one of those things, like, at least out here, like, we couldn't do a 2-year-old rye, like not even really a 3-year-old. It's really like, but now that we've hit 5, like, I don't plan on releasing anything less than 5, just because that's kind of that sweet area where everything, all the notes hit right.
Yeah, for sure. And so when I was reviewing this rye, the review that came out this week, I was kind of taken back because when I first sipped the cast ring, it had notes of almost like a double oaked rye. I mean, there's so much of that, just the sweet charred oak notes that I love that. I love that profile. It kind of not the rye part itself, but just those kind of double oak notes kind of reminded me of the Sagamore double oak, those sweet oak notes, and I love that with also, combined with your specific Merced rye notes. I think it just works really well. Let's go ahead and go in for a sip here. Also look at the color. I hope it comes through. Look how dark that is. That is beautiful. I mean, that is a really dark rye. This is not double oak. That's just one barrel. That's awesome. So there's almost like a smoky note in this. It's almost like so I think I described it in the review as like something like smoked pineapple. There's like this kind of this sweet fruit note is kind of combined with this kind of smoky char note, which I love that. It's just, oh, it's so good. Yeah, let's cheers to David, and cheers to all you folks watching along.
Cheers.
Oh, that's that is so stinking good. Yeah, you cannot help but smile after you have a sip of that. That's that is such good stuff.
You're making me smile because it's like, yeah, when we tasted that, like we had these kind of barrels set aside on our first release, and we didn't have a lot of them, and then, but I was like, man, this is just like, but like I said, I'm a rye person, and so many people in our area are not rye fans. So I feel like we've switched a lot of people from bourbon to not really just get away from bourbon, but the fact to open up their mind to rye. That rye it doesn't, if it's aged long enough, and it can be really, really damn good. It's, but I think there's, besides being a lot of 95 of the same stuff, there's a lot of young rye out there, and which I've tasted, and I'm like, man, this is going to be really good like 2 years from now. But when we first launched in 2014, there wasn't a lot of rye on the market, so we really did. I mean, we were selling out. We couldn't even keep enough in stock with our distributor, which was frustrating. It was a good frustration. But then we, 2 years into it, everybody had a rye. And then there was a lot of young ryes, which then we started hearing it taste. Because initially in the first couple of years, it was like, oh, I haven't had a rye. Like, because there was a handful. There was Whistle Pig, there was Pendleton. There was a handful of small ryes out there. We had Anchor Steam here in San Francisco, but there wasn't a lot of rye on the market. And then we started to hear, after like 3 or 4 years in the business, like, oh yeah, I'm not a real rye fan, but I don't want to try it. And it was mainly because they were getting a lot of young grassy notes, because rye can be super grassy when it's young, and it's,
oh yeah.
And so they're like, nah, man, it tastes like grass. And I'm like, well, try ours. Like it's minimum 4 at the time. And I go, and then like, oh, this is really good. So I think there's kind of this little bit of hesitation, but I think definitely Whistle Pig has kind of put rye on the map, and Michter's has done a good job with their rye, in a sense, at least, to get people converted to like thinking about rye. And so, I think it's a good growing category for sure.
Yeah, just to your point, David, I think that rye was a curiosity at first, and then, like you said, the one that's 70% of the rye on the market, people had a lot of that young stuff, and they were like, oh, maybe this isn't for me, and they didn't really give rye a fair chance because that was kind of everywhere.
Yeah.
And so, and there's some older stuff out there that it's great. It's just it's few and far between, and so many of these companies were just like, well, we need a rye, so let's just source it, and let's get a bottle out there.
Yeah.
And that's really, I don't like that model at all. I don't like, let's just source some young stuff and slap a label on it and throw it on the shelf. And so I appreciate that you guys took the time to make it right and get this really interesting profile that is so different from any rye I've had. And it's phenomenal. It's probably certainly my rye of the year. I don't think there's anything that's close that I've had. And probably in the top 5 of all the whiskeys I've had all year. It's so great that we got to get you guys out there more. Right? And thank you, Bobby, and all the other channels that have kind of put the spotlight on Corbin Cash. I mean, because Bobby from Bad Axe is really how me and you connected. So thank you, Bobby, for that.
Bobby,
I'd seen you on just kind of briefly on other channels, but didn't have the time to hang out for one reason or another. And that day that you were on with Bobby, I kind of got to really get to talk with you and meet you more and just kind of hear more about your story. And I was just, I love the farm to glass thing, first of all, because I live in farm country. I mean, there's cornfields and not the same kind of farming you're doing, to be fair. It's a more commercial kind of farming, but nonetheless, there's, corn and soybean fields all around me here. So I appreciate the work that goes into farming, and I appreciate that. And I think that's kind of why you guys got to where you are with making a quality product, because it's that same kind of mentality that, doing things the right way the first time, that farming kind of makes you do.
Yeah. And my dad is, my dad's just a big, he's all about, he taught me at a young age. He's like, you don't farm with your checkbook. And I'm like, what does that mean? He's like, he goes, when the plants need fertilizer, whether you can afford it or not, you got to give them fertilizer. Like, at the end of the day, if you don't give them what they need, you're going to screw yourself in the end. And it's just like, that's the message that was beat into me as a kid, not beat into me, but just taught to me, is like, do it the right way and you will benefit from it, and just keep doing it the right way. And, and I remember just, my dad and I aren't very far apart. Like, we're 16 years. He had me really young. And, but he was such a smart man, and just still is this day. And he's just like, but he's always about helping the people around him and doing things the right way. And he's very anal about how we run the farm. And I remember as a kid, like, thinking like, man, does it have to be this way? But I totally get it. As I got older, I'm like, yeah, if you don't do it this way, you're not unique. You will suffer at some point. And if you just do what you need to do, it will work out. And so, so growing up on a farm is, as a kid, you don't understand it till you go outside of it. And, at one point in my life, I invested in restaurants in Vegas and had a promotion company, and did all these other things while I still farmed. And it wasn't until I did those other businesses I realized, like, how much I learned growing up on a farm. Like, I can do plumbing, I can do welding, I know how to grow things, fix things, and so many things that a lot of people didn't know how to do as I met them in Vegas, and just actually even running a business. So it's definitely a humble beginning, and it's taught me a lot, and taught me patience of anything, because I didn't have a lot of patience as a kid.
Right.
The liquor business probably taught me more patience than anything, because nothing you do in this industry happens overnight. But if it happens too fast, it probably isn't going to last. So, I got to be thankful for that.
Yeah. So just kind of to your point, David, I although I didn't grow up on a farm, I understand exactly what you mean. So my dad always ran his own business growing up, various businesses, whether it be construction or landscaping. And so, and also just living in rural areas, I think also kind of forces you to become handy and learn things that you wouldn't normally learn, because you have to, because if you don't do it, no one will.
That's right.
So, it's got to get done. So you better figure out how to do it. And I think that mentality kind of, as you said, it translates over to so many other businesses, because it just teaches you to kind of deal with the hard times and deal with whatever the adversity is, kind of overcome those, and just, push through it and figure out a way to make it work. And I think that's, I'll leave out what I was going to say, but I love that mentality still exists. And I love that it exists in whiskey more than, because, as I mentioned earlier, I'm kind of getting, and I feel like a lot of people in chat, we're kind of saying the same thing, that we're getting burnt out on the, just source it and slap a label on it. I like that people are still putting in the work and making a great product that they're really proud of, that they've taken the time to make great. And I love to see that so much. So Yeah. Just again, cheers to you. I'm going to have another sip because it's so good. I love this stuff. So I haven't asked you what are you sipping on, and also chat. What are you guys sipping on?
So I'm having an old fashioned with the 1917.
There you go. Okay. Sounds good to me.
Yeah, no, that's my go-to. Except I got to be careful. You have 2 or 3 of them, and you forget it's 123 proof, and they sneak up on you real quick.
Yeah. In fairness, going through all 5 of these liquors in an hour was probably not the best idea. But, I wanted to get through them all, but I'm feeling it a little bit. But that's okay. I mean, you guys produce such great stuff that it's been a joy. So let's see here. I just want to make sure I'm not missing any question. Okay, there is 2 kinds of music in Sean's town: country and western. I mean, that's also metal. Az, I'm a metal fan.
Yeah.
Anyway,
sounds like our town.
heck yeah. So now you guys are like kind of central California, right?
Correct.
As far as the north-south.
Smack dab, pretty much in the middle.
Yeah, see, I did not realize it was so kind of arid there.
Yeah, this area, when my great-grandfather came here, it was pretty much like a desert. They had just built some reservoirs, so they had a canal system to irrigate land, but there's definitely more built over the years. But it was and we're real sandy, so like there's probably a 10 miles long by 15 miles wide. There's a big swath of land here that is just super sandy soil. Like it's like beach sand without the salt, right? Like it's a great, it's a really fertile. This was basically a riverbed. So when there would be floods in the mountains, all that water and snow melt would run down in here, and so there was a lot of rich soil. So back then, the farming was just starting to happen in this area on a little bit larger scale, but it was still all with horses and horse-drawn plows. And my great grandfather, he was one of the first people in our area to even own a tractor. Like he figured out, like, dude, I don't have to feed that thing in the winter. And so he was like, he was all about buying the first tractor that came out. But up until then, the farming was really small because it was, like I said, you were pulling horses, you were using horses and mules and everything else back then. And then once he got a tractor, that allowed him to expand a little more. And, but the sandy soil here is fertile, and as good as it is for growing a lot of things, it also uses a little bit more water. And then you do tend to leach, like I was talking about the fertilizer we put, whatever the plants aren't using, they would typically leach down. Which, when my great grandfather came here, the water table was at about 6 feet. And today the water table is about 100 feet. So
wow,
it's dropping. It's dropped a lot. Yeah.
That's a huge.
2 years ago, the water table dropped 50 feet in 1 year, and then it eventually came back up a little bit. But yeah, there was a big scare here for a long time. So it's still scary. We got a little more rain last year, but you read the Farmer's Almanac and they talk about the 100-year trends. So we're hoping this is a 100-year trend and it's going to go away. But
right.
Yeah. Then we see Hurricane Ian and you guys getting flooded back there. And it's like, man, why can't we pump that water over here and do some good with it? But, I guess it's not as valuable as oil just yet. So nobody tries to think of those things.
Well, I'd say we're getting there. I mean, so I saw a post not too long ago on, some social media that that water was more per ounce than beer. So we're getting there. You know, so
it is. Well, and you think about it, like it's the one resource we can't live without, right? You can go longer without food than water.
Yep.
So, you know, hopefully the politics will get out of it and we'll figure out a way to build some more reservoirs, capture a lot of the water that is just running down these rivers and pouring out into the ocean. And hopefully we can do some farming and convert it into drinking water at some point.
Yeah, you know, in the Colorado River, that does not look like a long-term solution. We're starting to.
It's bad. Yeah, it's if you looked at where I watched a thing on water the other day, and if you that thing used to go like, dude, halfway into Mexico, and now it's lucky if it even makes it to the Arizona border, man. Like it's sad. It's really sad, but
yeah, you guys out west, we're praying for you. It's not things are not because what Lake Mead is like almost gone now, right? It's
it's adjusting, but I mean that's Colorado River, right? Rockies, but it's and it's interesting. Why does this happen? Like, you know, they talk about global warming. You know, it may have a little bit to do with it, but I think it's just weather patterns. When we look back in our history, it's cycles, unfortunately. So hopefully, but as we get more and more people, we have to figure this out because that's you know, 40 years ago we didn't have that problem here because the population was half of what it was. So
exactly.
Like, oh, there's plenty of water. There's plenty of water, but as the population keeps growing, then that's it, right?
Yeah, I would say that's it more than anything. There's a lot of people living in basically a desert, so you know it's kind of like
you know, and we and as humans, we want convenience and we want you know, and it's like, you know, we want our whiskey, we want our beer, we want our bottled water. But we also want to wash our cars. We want flushing toilets. You know, you think about all those things that it's just all that adds up after a while. And so that's, you know, we'll have to figure that out, which I'm sure we will. We have a lot of smart people in the world, and hopefully we'll continue to be able to make whiskey. That's what we want.
Yes. For sure. If nothing else, let's hope for that because you guys are doing some great stuff. Water, you know, whatever. Just make sure Corbin Cash gets the water they need to keep this whiskey flowing. No, it definitely everybody needs water. David, if you don't mind, I know you got some other engagements that you need to be at, but just real quick, kind of to wrap up, I just wanted to couple things. First off, just talk about kind of the difficulties briefly. We kind of went over it earlier, but just kind of a little more in depth. Starting up your distillery, dealing with the sweet potatoes, and then your specific variety of rye, and kind of different temperatures you're using for your mashes, and kind of the more in depth distillery stuff.
So yeah, it was like you said, it was no formal education. So that was probably my biggest challenge, is just trying to understand. And then, you know, the internet was had some information, but not a lot. So I researched some books, and it was kind of like this whole thing has been really a lot of trial and error process. There was nobody making sweet potato alcohol, and then rye, 100% rye was its own challenge. So learning the cooking processes, especially with the rye, the sweet potatoes were more of the challenge was a little more enzymatic in the fact of like breaking those complex carbohydrates down. Where with the 100% rye, the challenge was that we had over the years was so 100% rye, if it's not treated properly in the cooking process, it can turn to peanut butter. So like I literally stuck a 500-gallon tank of rye and turned it into peanut butter and had like it's 212-degree peanut butter, and I literally had to me 3 days to shovel this thing out. So I would get in the tank. We had to suck all the water off the top, and then I would get in the tank, and it's all slimy and slippery, and shovel it into a bucket and give it to because I didn't want to put an employee in there because I'm like, dude, like if they get hurt or something happens. So I'm like in this
drowning in the peanut butter.
Yeah. So that was probably one of the worst things literally that happened over. And then the rye monster, we call it the rye monster, if anybody's ever heard of it, is where rye can like literally foam. I never ran into that problem on a small scale. And then when we took our fermenters up from 500 gallons to 2,000 gallon fermenters, all of a sudden we started having these foaming issues. And I come in the morning, and literally there would be a foot of foam all over the distillery, and it's just boiling out of the tank, and I have no clue what's going on. So I'm talking to different enzyme people, and turns out that adding a little bit of either another specific enzyme that we use now, or the only way to really stop it is add just a quarter ounce of food grade silicone into the mash, and that will, they have a food grade silicone.
Interesting.
That will like cut it out and never happen again. But it took me about 10 fermentations of foaming to like really, I'm like, okay, this isn't going to fix itself. The worst was we had just bottled probably about 10 pallets of rye, a combination of rye, gin, sweet potato liqueur, blended whiskey, vodka. Just had them sitting on the distillery floor. I hadn't moved them into the warehouse yet. And so we were trying to figure this foaming issue out. And it was my fault. I walk in the distillery, and I'm talking on my cell phone, and I crawl up and look in the tank. And normally with the rye, we just do an open top fermentation. And in my head, I don't know, I was talking, multitasking. I just closed the tank, and I screwed down the lid, and I left. And I told myself, okay, I'm going to wake up at 1 o'clock in the morning, because I was trying to calculate. I wanted to see the foam start so I could try to figure out what was going on. So I wake up at 1 o'clock in the morning. I walk in the distillery, and before I could even get out of the office, I could smell the rye, and I'm like, damn it. I know something's already happening. And I click the lights on, and when I open the door, there's literally rye spraying across the whole distillery because I had shut the lid and the rubber gasket had blown, and there was so much pressure that instead of just foaming over the open tank, it was literally spraying like a sprinkler, and it covered all those pallets of just freshly bottled booze on top of all of the floor. And oh, what a mess. We had to repackage everything, and I'm like, okay, now we have to call somebody because I can't figure this out by myself.
Yeah, this is a bigger problem than I'm able to deal with now. Yeah,
I was so pissed, man. Like, pissed at myself because I couldn't blame anybody but me, because had I not closed the lid, it would have been fine. It would have just foamed over, ran out, and went down the drain, and it would have been fine. Maybe got, into the pallets a little bit, but yeah, that was my fault. And everybody looked at me, and I'm like, yep. Is this me?
Take it. Yeah.
I gotta own that one. So that's when I'm like, okay, I gotta start making some phone calls, because I can't keep doing this.
Yeah. AZ says death by rye. What a way to go. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's funny because talking about it's 1 o'clock in the morning. I literally live, you can walk to the distillery. So my commute is not far. So I literally walk over there and I'm just in my, in my workout shorts, no shirt, flip flops. And I walk into this and it's like, there's, 6 inches of sloppy ass rye all over the floor. And I'm running to the tank to try to like open the lid. And I'm like taking a bath because I'm just like, I got to get this from not being a sprinkler. So I'm just I'm just drenched in rye. Like it was I could probably find the video. If I could find a video of that on our security cameras, it probably would have won America's Funniest Home Video.
Perfect. Now, do you guys have any YouTube content that anybody could follow or keep up with, or any other social media that?
So we have Facebook, Corbin Cash Distillery on Facebook, Corbin Cash Distillery on Instagram. We have some stuff on YouTube. It's not really like added content, but we do have some videos that we've made for like the farming to distillery process. So we have like 4 or 5 videos up to kind of show the whole process on the farm, all the way into the distillery. So you can Google those on YouTube. I think they're all under Corbin Cash.
Yeah, but I think the security camera footage is a great idea, David. Throw that up as a reel on Instagram; it'll do well. So, David, I know you'd mentioned to me before the stream that you had somewhere else to be tonight, and I respect that.
I got some time. You have another. Okay. You said you had another question. I'm good. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. Cool. So, where do you want to go next? Like, what do you see yourself? Like, what are your future plans? Like, what do you want to do with the brand next? What are kind of some new experimental stuff you want to try out?
So, I mean, like I said earlier, like for us, I want to be a national brand. I want to represent, the sweet potato alcohol, I think has, it's new, it's different. It's got its own unique profile. We've got some copycats out there, but I've tasted some of the products and I feel like they need a little bit of work, but there's definitely differences in our products. And same thing with our rye. Like I said, it's like, I want to represent our rye and show that, so much love and respect in Kentucky and Tennessee and the Midwest for the whiskey that you guys do. But I feel like I want to be able to have our California spin on it and show that, there's a red-blooded part of California. We're not all like, we don't all have our head up our asses. Like there's a big section in our state that thinks just like the rest of you guys out in the Midwest. And, we're just good old boys farming, want to make whiskey and just, have a good family life and make a good living. And I just want to represent that for our state, because our state is, we're known for our movie stars and our technology, but I wanted to be known that, you know what, we got a good damn distillery out here too, not just movie stars and technology.
Yeah, and so I don't want to get into politics real deep, but so I actually watched a video. This was probably 6 months back. About how like the northern part of California wants to like separate itself from the southern part of California and become another state, because just because the ideals and the values are basically polar opposite, and so I know that exists. What you were just describing, that there's certainly 2 Californias, and so LA and San Francisco are kind of one California. And then there's another California.
There's another part. But what's funny is I had a place rented in the Bay Area for 3 years when I was kind of doing all the sales and the distilling and kind of less one-man show. And it's funny though, when you talk to people, and I always tell, we just had this conversation earlier today. It's like I'm very socially liberal. fiscally conservative. Like I believe, like I'm all for giving people a hand up, not a handout. And I think the government would rather give you a handout so they can control you. And when I would have these conversations with my roommates in the Bay and other people, and it's funny, they're like, "Oh, well, you're not so conservative," and I'm like, "Well, I'm fiscally conservative." I go, and I feel like you have a right to live your life the way you want. Just don't ask me to pay for it, right? Like I just, you know, and if you're on hard times, I'm all about helping people and helping you get on your feet. Just we don't want to support you for like the rest of your life. And it's funny, they have a similar mentality, but I think the media really just tries to divide us. So,
absolutely.
And so, we have our differences with certain things, but again, I'm like, a lot of those certain things are individual opinions and they don't need to be talked about. Like you have your opinion of something and I have mine, and that's okay. Like there's nothing wrong with that. But how we want to live as a country is, I think 90% of us are all on the same page. It's just the media divides, unfortunately. And then whiskey just brings us together. So
yeah, I mean, so exactly. And that's exactly what my next thought was, David, is that, some of my best friends that I've met through this whiskey tube thing are folks in California and in the LA area, or, that kind of greater metropolis. And sure, we may have different values in certain parts of our lives, but I think that we have far more in common than we have that we disagree on. It's just like you said that, the media is doing an excellent job of trying to divide us. But when you sit down with someone that you think may have polar opposite views to you, ends up that they don't. It ends up that we agree on far more than we disagree on.
Yeah, no. And that's the problem, is we let the media speak for us, and we should all be just having these kind of conversations and really enjoying each other for what we are like. And I think the cool thing that COVID presented to us was this whole Zoom thing, and I think that's going to change because people can now connect with people all over the country and do this and see like, hey, we're all not so different, are we? And that's going to hopefully change how society develops a little bit, and where people can have real conversations with each other and agree to disagree, like instead of just letting the media push their own agenda per se.
Yeah. Well, I have a certain look that people might look at me and think that I have, they're just gonna, kind of peg me in this one hole, and that's what they think that I am. And there's maybe a slight amount of truth to that. There's certain things that they might be right about my personality, but then there's going to be a lot of things that they're not right about at all. And so I think what's interesting is what this Zoom thing and all these kind of live streaming technology is brought about. Just to your point is that if you're on my channel very often, you see that there's people that you may not think that we would be talking together based on just what the media spin tells us where we should be in our lives. But I have such a great time with all of those folks because it's just we have far more in common than we have that divides us. And I think we need to focus on it. And I'll also focus on this fantastic whiskey we've been talking about tonight. Again, folks, lots of samples going out to somebody. So Patreon, you're getting 1 ounces of everything, no charge. But if you want extra entries, you can do that. $5 Cash App, PayPal, and then 2 ounces going to a whole other giveaway to everybody, not just Patreons. Anybody can enter of all 5 things we've tried tonight. So the potato liqueur, the blended whiskey, the 90 proof rye, the bourbon, and the cast strength rye. So again, folks, if you want to get entered in on these great whiskeys that David's producing, it's not too late. We have not done the giveaway yet. So 2 ways to enter. Also, if you're not a Patreon, you can join. Then you're in for both things. So yeah, and we'll probably do that here shortly. Probably once David needs to head out, then we'll do all the giveaways and stuff. I don't want to interrupt our conversation too much with that. So, David, I kind of hinted at this earlier, but is there any other kind of branches of the whiskey world that you want to explore more, such as maybe doing certain finishes in the future? Any other kind of ideas you're kind of kicking around your head to go off in other profiles, or just what are your thoughts going forward as a master distiller?
So I've been a big fan of smoky, like smoke. I was never a big fan of Scotch, but
cheers, Dan.
I learned. I've had some people teach me or give me some scotches that I'm kind of enjoying, but I'm a huge fan of tequila and mezcal, and I love the smoke in mezcal. And I had some smoked malt a while back, and so we're actually we just got some smoked apple malt in, and we're going to be trying to do like a smoked apple rye malt. Yeah, this stuff. I actually sitting here with a bag of it right here. And
awesome!
I was just smelling it, the malt, and I'm like, I want to eat it, but it's like I'm hoping. So we're going to be toying with that in the next couple weeks, trying to add a little smoked malt with the rye, and then maybe doing some finishes in our tequila. So we're also making tequila and rum, and so maybe doing some rye finishes in those tequila and rum barrels as well. So.
Oh, that sounds really cool, man. That smoked apple, that sounds like that's going to be a really interesting blend with your Merced rye. I think that's going to work really well with the sweet notes and the smoky notes that you already have going on. Yeah, that
and
sounds
the applewood just goes it just has this really great flavor and just nose on it, and I think a little bit with our rye. And then I think we're going to have a little bit of it caramelized, so we can get a little bit of caramel notes in there and hopefully make this thing taste like a really awesome, unique smoked apple malt.
awesome, man. Again, folks, should be at the top of the chat. Let me just double check. Yeah, so there is the link to Corbin Cash. So David, we kind of talked about this off stream, but also on stream some. So if you're out of state, David can work things out. So go on their website, find what you want, and everything is great. But I really highly recommend, well, basically everything that I have. So I mean, the sweet potato liqueur is very interesting, totally different than any liqueur I've ever had. I would imagine, especially like around this time, Thanksgiving time, it's going to make some really interesting cocktails. It'll go great with Thanksgiving dinner. Your pumpkin pies, sweet potato pies, all those kind of things. It's going to go great with those. The blended whiskey is such a unique profile. As I said, it did really well at the Kentucky meetup. Everybody was blown away by how interesting that profile was. And then, then your ryes. And the bourbons the bourbon as well. It's a unique bourbon. There's more malt presence than is kind of typical of what's on the market, but still being a great bourbon. And I like the proof point as well, the 106. And then the rye, the Merced rye is just phenomenal. I love the 90 proof. Clearly, it's nearly gone. I mean, there's just a couple ounces left in there, and then this thing is just a monster of a rye. It's so good. And again, folks that are just coming in now, look at the color on that. It's so dark. I love the oak presence in this. Totally different than most of the ryes on the market. It's just phenomenal. I love it so much. So yeah, check out Corbin Cash, please. Go to the website. Check out all the stuff David's doing. David, anything you want to kind of spotlight before I let you go and do other things?
Yeah, anybody has any questions about anything, feel free to reach out. You can info@corbincash.com, or like I said, like Sean said, if you want to order something online, you're not sure about shipping, you can place the order. We can give you a call, kind of see where it's going. But we did just get did get direct to consumer shipping back. This lab about 2 weeks ago, our governor signed a bill to give it to us temporary. So do it while you can.
Get your orders in,
Hopefully it's going
folks.
to be permanent one of these days, but it's not. We're still fighting for it. So they gave us a temporary order for the next year. But yeah, if anybody has any questions, even going international, we do have some retailers that ship international. And then if you're looking for distribution, we can make that work out too. Just give us a call. And Sean has our information he can hand out at the end of the thing.
Yeah, and anybody, because I know a lot of you personally. So if you have any issues not getting the information, which I mean, their website is a really great website. It's pretty. I mean, I don't really foresee there being any issues, but if there are any, I can always get you in touch with David if need be, or contact me. We'll work it out. We'll make sure you get what you're trying to get. Yeah, because I cannot express again how unique these liquors are that you guys are producing, and I cannot wait for you guys to really start taking over the market and becoming a household name, because you guys deserve it. I mean, just such great stuff, and I hope more people will know about you soon, because you deserve all your hard work. Deserves more attention. So thank you so much, David. Again,
Thank you. We appreciate you guys, man. It's doing these things is like, I tell our Sean, my sales guy, like I don't get to go out in the public, and so doing these things gives me great feedback to and strive to keep doing what we're doing. But it's, you guys help us get the word out, and so we're super thankful that you guys are willing to do these things, because we don't always have the time or the energy or the money to get the marketing that we need sometimes. So it just takes a long time. So everybody that gets behind it is, we're so appreciative. So thank you guys very much.
David, if I could just, I'm just going to throw an idea out there, since you got both. Any plans for like a boo rye in the future?
What was that?
A boo rye, a 50-50, your amazing rye plus your great bourbon.
I never thought about that. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you just gave new idea.
Yeah, I think that'd be great. I mean, I love both of them on their own, but I'd love to see them paired together. Yeah. So
50. Yeah. You know what? Now I gotta try that. Damn it.
Yeah, let me know.
I'll be pulling some barrels next week, so I might just be taking some, and you might be onto something. So we'll have to keep you posted on that.
Dave, real quick before you go, if you're comfortable with it, I dropped my number in private chat.
Okay.
So if you're okay with talking, here and there in the future, that'd be great, man. Because for me, that texting is always easier than email.
Heck yeah. Actually, I'm not seeing it. So hold on. I'm not real good with these things. I don't do them very often. So where's the private? How do I get on the private chat?
So on the far right side of your screen, you got comments, banners. Well, of course, you probably aren't seeing all those options on.
I see it here. Chat. Here we go. Yeah. Oh yeah, I got it. Okay. Yeah, no, I'll text you right now, and then you can. That way, you got my number.
Yeah, for sure, man.
No, texting is so much better for me too than emails, because I get a million emails. So I will definitely put your number in right now.
Well, but before David signs off and goes, keeps making kick-ass whiskey. Anybody else have any last questions for David before we let him go? Let's see what we got here. Word of mouth is great. We don't like bad whiskey in here, for sure. Yeah. And yeah, there you go. Yeah, Bobby can do the 50-50. There you go. I'm giving Bobby video ideas as well. Uh, there you go. So it's already Bobby approved. He said the Sour Mash Bourbon and the Merced Rye 50-50 is good.
Yeah. Is he mixing them in the bottle?
Maybe so. Yeah, you letting them sit for a little while, Bobby. Let them really mix up in there. Yeah, I mean, I you know what? Let's this will just be on the fly. So not really having time to sit together, but I'm just gonna experiment a little bit here. Throw a little bit together to see what we got. I can't imagine it being bad because I love both already. So,
well, I think you'd get yeah, I think it could be a really interesting flavor profile, to be honest with you.
yeah, so it brightens up the rye a little bit. It's not quite as smoky and as not so much char coming through. Getting some of those malt notes and just the sweeter corn notes from the bourbon, obviously. A little more cinnamon presence punching through now. I mean, the rye is still very present, though. It's such
well,
a
there's a lot of rye in that bourbon too. I think we're at like a 25% of the Merced rye in there, so it's gonna. But I think it would mute that spice note a little bit.
Yeah. Let's go here. I just did a quick spin up there, but yeah, that's killer, man. That's I would buy that any day of the week. Yeah, I mean, I will say it's not better than the rye on its own, but I mean, I'm so in love with that rye. But for someone that maybe isn't accustomed to rye, I think that might help them get into it. I think it's a really nice go between. Yeah, that is great. As Bobby say, it's good. Oh man, that's good. Yeah, that's excellent. Well, all right, David. Thank you so much, man. I'll let you get to the other great things you're doing in life. Yeah. Thank you so much for hanging out. I appreciate it immensely.
Yeah,
and thank you for these. I can't even call them samples. I mean, they're full bottles. So thank you so much for your generosity. It was and all the great communication through emails, and hopefully, we can keep chatting through text. I won't bother you too much.
Yeah, no, perfect. I just sent you a text, so you should have it in your inbox there.
Cool. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I see it.
Okay.
And maybe in the future, maybe a few months down the road, we can do this again, have you on again. I mean, because I want to keep getting your name out there. I think you guys deserve it. You guys are doing such great stuff. So yeah, thank you. Cheers to David. Great stuff. Yeah. Cheers to David and Corbin Cash. And have a great night, man. And thank you for taking the time out to hang out with you tonight.
We'll see you, awesome. Bobby. Thanks for everybody that came in. We'll talk to you soon. Sure. All right. Cheers.
Cheers, man. All right. So now, folks, I'm going to drop the link. If anybody wants to hang out and talk, if we want to just keep talking Corbin Cash, we can do that. I'm perfectly fine with that. Because I think that David is doing great stuff. So there is the link right there for anybody that wants to pop in and hang out. Let me pin that there. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I love this stuff so much. Yeah, I'm gonna be sending a lot of money David's way. I know that. It's probably it's one of the best ryes I've had, not just this year, but period. When I think about what else it's up against, and I know Bobby agrees. He said very similar things on his channel. I'd buy that for $1. Yeah. Yeah. And again, there's the link to Corbin Cash. Let's see here. But let me highlight their there it is. Yeah, for anybody interested in getting their stuff, there is the link again, Corbin Cash /spirits / yeah, check them out. David will, even if you're out of state, he'll find a way to get it to you. We'll make sure it's all legal and on the up and up and all that good stuff. But he can get you out of state, so don't think just because you're not in California that you can't get it. And yeah, more people need to try the stuff that David's producing. So yeah, so let's see here. Let's run through a little bit of chat here. Yeah, so that was earlier, but John Krantz saying want to try the potato liqueur with a turkey dinner for sure, man. So freaking good. And I'm not a liqueur guy, but it's so interesting. It's got a lot of baking spices in it, a lot of cinnamon, a lot of baking spices, some nuttiness, kind of some nutmeg, little bit of like a clove or an anise. Like I imagine like that would pair perfectly with like a nice ham or something like that. It's going to be phenomenal. Corbin Cash, yeah. Let's see here. Yeah, so Bobby, it already beat me to the 50-50. I should have known. Let's see. What are we doing here? Here's Corbin Cash. Yeah, I have. I put a little bit of a dent. I got to save enough to get out some samples to a couple other channels because I want to make sure some channels that are bigger than me get to spotlight this rye as well because, David and the great people at Corbin Cash deserve it. So probably going to send some over to Todd. I know he's a rye guy. And some other folks. If hit me up. A lot of you guys have my contact information. If you have a channel, especially to kind of shine a light on this great distillery, then hit me up and maybe we can get you a little bit. I don't have a whole lot left of either one, but we can get you some. But speaking of getting you guys some samples again, and we'll wrap up both giveaways here in just a little bit. But again, so 1 ounce samples of all 5 going to Patreons. You don't need to put anything in for that. But if you want extra entries, then you can do that. You can $5 an entry, PayPal, Cash App. But again, based on your tier depends on how many entries you already have. So all Patreons you're already in to some degree. And if you want more entries, then of course you can purchase more. And then for everybody else that's not Patreons, there is and I already got them boxed up, all 5 right there. You can see them all. So you got, let's see, that's the sweet potato liqueur. There's 2 ounce sample of that. And of course, all the other stuff. I just bumped the mic. Sorry about that. Yeah, all 5 of the things we went through tonight. So the bourbon, the 106 proof bourbon, the 90 proof rye, the cast strength rye, the sweet potato liqueur, and the blended whiskey. All 5 of those samples are available if you want to get in on those. So we'll let that run another couple minutes here. We'll run through some chat. And, again, if anybody wants to hop on and hang out, that's cool too. There is the link for StreamYard. So what are you guys' thoughts? I know it's not available to everybody, but what's the interest level? Are you guys excited about trying some Corbin Cash? For those that do have it, kind of let us know about your experience that you're having. For those that do have the Corbin Cash stuff, let me know in the chat here. Let's talk about it some. There you go. I need to get another pour. I need to go. Yeah, there you go. It is good. It's good. I'd love to jump on, but I'm sipping on a Rockstar here at work. That's okay. That's okay, Bobby. I know. Sometimes life gets in the way. There you go. Yeah. And Bobby's out in Cali. Yeah. So he's got better access to it than I do. But I think that, so Patreons, as you know, I do sample giveaways every month. And I think I'm going to be purchasing more Corbin Cash stuff. That way, Corbin Cash is always, available to Patreons. That way, it's there for the sample giveaway each month because, I want more people to try this. So I'll probably be talking to David a lot in the next few weeks about getting some more stuff out to me That way it's always there for Patreons to try, because yeah, you guys got to try this stuff. I cannot say it enough. Yeah. There you go. So Bobby's saying, if I ever hit 500 subs, I'm going to get a free bottle of 1970. There you go. I like that. Soon, Bobby, soon. I'm telling you, man, you're doing great. I usually hate anise, but it blends in so well with everything else. Not an issue. Agreed, man. Yeah. So there's kind of that clove, anise note, but it works so well with the other notes. So, like in this, still, I get like this smoky grilled pineapple in the cast strength. I love that note so much. So it's like this sweet pineapple note, but there's like this smoky charred thing going on as well. It's like caramelized pineapple. It kind of reminds me of, like, if you ever smoked a ham and you put the pineapples on top, so you get that kind of smokiness. I love doing the ham that way, by the way. And so I'm familiar with that note because of that reason, because I always smoke my hams. I think it just makes them awesome. So you put your clove on there, and your sugar and your honey and your pineapple and your salt, pepper, all the things you put on your ham. And it comes out in that smoked pineapple. You have your slices of pineapple on top of your ham. And there's almost like a hammy, meaty quality to this, because it's so mouth coating. It's so viscous. So good. I love that rye immensely. Let's see here. I will send some out to Mark at Northwest with the other samples I'm sending. So, AZ, now, not that I'm sure Mark would appreciate them, but I feel like Mark has some, but I'm not going to prevent you from, getting stuff to Mark, because, he deserves it. But I feel like Mark also did a kind of a interview with the master distiller, the awesome guy that is David Souza. I feel like he did that a few months back. I feel like I'm right in saying that. Can't wait to find out all that stuff. Yeah. So, Ethan, we're gonna have to talk. I need to get you guys some as well. So I feel like I have enough to get you guys out some, and also get Todd some. I know Todd's gonna love it, because he's a rye guy. So we're gonna have to get you some of this stuff. I feel like I have enough to get you two at least 1 ounces of both. Definitely interested to try Corbin Cash whiskey, and would like for it to be available locally. I may have missed it. Do they ship? Okay, so Lou, unfortunately, right now they're only available in California, but they do ship. So again, well, of course, I had it posted at the top of the chat earlier. So that's you doing that. But yes, they do ship. Where's the other link I'm looking for? There's their website. And so, yeah, you guys, anybody can browse their whole, because they have a bunch of stuff. They also have gins and other stuff as well, if you guys are interested in those. But everything that I've had from them is great. Like, no matter what category you're talking about, whether it be bourbon, rye, a blended whiskey, a liqueur, each one of those things is exceptional in that category. So, I'm so happy to have made this connection and got to meet David, and so happy about his generosity. I mean, like I said earlier, I can't even call these samples, because he sent me full bottles, which was such a nice surprise, because it's allowed me to share with you guys, and I was able to share at the Kentucky meetup. So a lot of people got to try this great whiskey. So that's been awesome, and all thanks to David and Sarah over there at Corbin Cash for being so generous. So yeah, just awesome people. So please support them. If you guys, especially if I cannot say it enough, this rye is just, it's phenomenal. Whether you get the 90 proofer, if you prefer a lower proof rye, or you want the cast strength, either way, they're both great. A little bit different, as David said earlier, it's just a difference of water. So obviously the 90 proofer is a little softer, but it's probably I mean, it definitely is my favorite 90 proof rye now. So I was thinking earlier, I compared them. So you're talking similar price point and proof point to, say, a Rendezvous rye from High West or Michter's rye. What else? A Sagamore. So a lot of those similar proof points, similar price points. But I think that the Corbin Cash it's better. I think it's a better product for basically the same amount of money. So yeah, if you guys are looking for, if you want that next kind of lower proof rye, kind of your daily sipper, I think Corbin Cash is this one right here. I mean, clearly, I like it because it's you almost can't see it anymore because it's below the label. So, yeah. And that's why I had to package up my samples before this stream because I knew I was going to go through it and there wouldn't be enough left. So that's why I did the samples ahead of time. That way they're done. And that way I could sip freely and not worry about not having enough for samples because it's such great stuff. So please go to the website, check them out. But anyway, guys, let's just kind of do our normal nonsense now and talk about what you guys want to talk about. What are you guys sipping on? Because I know a lot of you don't have access to Corbin Cash. But just real quick, as Bobby's saying, great people all around at Corbin Cash, for sure. It does not drink like 123 proof at all. So here, of course, this is my blend. So this is the 106 proof bourbon, which also drinks light not light, like light in a bad way. It just doesn't drink like 106 proof. So the 106 proof bourbon and the 1917 rye combined, which if I gave David a new idea, I'm kind of proud of that. That's awesome. I cannot wait. If the brew rye becomes a thing, I would be so happy about that. It's good. Wait, what now? I'm getting commercials now in the middle of the live. Interesting. Okay. Well, that's kind of annoying to me, but all right. Anyway, we'll talk about that more later. Get in now. No doubt when the word gets out, they're going to be exactly. So that is the thing. So now is the time to get in on Corbin Cash, because when people find out about this, David's going to run out of stock and it's going to be like the most allocated rye in the country because it's better than everything else I've had. So, oh man, what's up, Stanley? Yeah. Are any of them super spicy? Better than Michter's? Would you give Corbin Cash? I would give Corbin Cash a thumbs up for sure. Great references there, Mashville. Not going to say who that's from, but for those that know, you know. Good old Michter's. I swear to God. It's good. Yeah, it is good, man. I had to drop out for a minute. Got a commercial when I came back. Oh, okay. Interesting. All right, so it's not interrupting the live. That's what my concern was. So maybe it just does it like when you first come in, which I guess is not the worst. All right, so Slapshot, and I'm sorry I didn't get to everybody's comments earlier. I kind of wanted to give David the floor. I didn't want to keep interrupting him. I didn't want to be rude because again, I mean, David has been so generous. I wanted to just really give him the floor tonight and just let him, tell you guys all this, how they came about and all the great stuff they're doing. So sorry if I missed some chats earlier. But yeah, cheers, Brian. Good to see you, man. Sipping Axe Handle, a Virginia distillery MGP product right now, but they're making their own. Okay. Only been around since 2020. Oh, okay. So a fairly new distillery. That's cool. Yeah, good stuff, man. Glad you're enjoying it. Exactly. Corbin Cash does sound baller. I agree. Yeah, it's a great name. It's great whiskey. It's run by a great dude. Also, Sarah, who's kind of does the more behind the scenes stuff, make sure everything kind of keeps business side keeps going. David, I probably should have asked more what Sarah does, but she's awesome as well. I know she just kind of keeps the gears moving. The whiskey wrapper, indeed. Although, so don't fear the Mickers. Yeah. His new name, AZ, and everyone feel free to start using this. So he commented on a female whiskey tuber's video and was talking about how attractive she was. So we've decided now that he's officially the whiskey creeper. So feel free to use that. Use it as much as you like. It's not trademarked or anything. So yeah, the whiskey creeper is now the official name for said person. Anyway. Dude, I'm dead. Yeah. Good old Mickers. In that particular video from the Whiskey Creeper, he says it like 6 times. He pronounces it wrong, like with authority, like 6 times in a row. It's, I don't even know. I don't know if it's ballsy or just dumb. It's hard to say. Awesome. Another penny in that sense. Yeah, I'm telling you, I'm racking them up. I'm racking them up, Stanley. Yeah, here soon I'm going to be living in a mansion from all this YouTube money. Anyway, yeah, the name, the bottle, exactly, everything. I just love everything that David is doing over there. Just, I love this brand. Again, Bobby, thank you for, having me on that day when you had David on. Let me chat with him, kind of get to know him better and just hang out with you guys. That was so awesome. Exactly. Yeah. So that was one of the questions I was supposed to ask, and I forgot to. How they came up with a name. I kind of forgot to do that. But yeah, there you go. That is how he came up with it. It's his son's name, which is just also awesome. No flair on the bottle. The bottle is flair. Exactly. That's outstanding. Is it the Whiskey Creeper? It is the Whiskey Creeper. So yes, the one that shall remain nameless. Hey, Trish, how are you? Good to see you. So one day I will get Trish's amazing logo, like all animated and stuff. Speaking of, actually, while we're on the subject, because I always mean to bring this up during lives. If anyone in lives knows how to animate still images, so I need somebody to do my roll-in. That's what I'm trying to get to. Trish gave me this amazing, for those that don't know what it looks like, here, I'll share real quick. Give me a second here. Okay. Sorry, I'm a little slow. I've had some whiskey, and also I'm just not tech savvy at all. Here we go. Let's see. There's the one. All right. So something like this, and for those of you that are better at color designs and stuff, then maybe you have other ideas. But here, let me share screen. So here is the great logo that Trish came up with. Now, I colored it, so maybe the color scheme is not right. Trish, you will probably critique it right now. But, I did the coloring myself, so that's not Trish's fault. She came up with the logo itself, and I think it looks phenomenal. You guys picked this out of all the logos that Trish did, and Trish did a lot for me, way more than she needed to do. So thank you again, Trish. But this is the one that everybody liked the most, and to be fair, it was my favorite from the beginning. So you guys chose wisely. I love this logo so much. The problem is I need it animated for my roll-in. And I am terrible at that. I'm going to stop sharing now. But anyway, that's what it looks like. So, so if you know anybody that does that kind of thing, if you know anybody that does animation, and I don't need like complex, like Pixar level kind of animation or whatever. I don't know what the high end stuff is. Anybody that that does that. So here's my idea: is I want the bottles to drop in and kind of slosh around like whiskey bottles, and then the skull to either like burn through the background or something interesting. It doesn't have to be like crazy, just some kind of interesting animation to make it pop, because I think Trish did a great job, and I just want it to kind of be animated to kind of stand out. I don't want to like change it at all. I just need somebody to animate it. So you needed an Imagineer. Yeah, something like that. That sounds about right, Ethan. Yeah, exactly. So John, I don't know who's keeping track of the To Be Fair count, but they're probably going to start adding up pretty quickly, because once the whiskey starts happening, it seems like I say To Be Fair more. So, but anyway, thank you again, Trish, for that. And as soon as I can get somebody to animate it for me, because I'm just trash at that. I don't even know the first. I don't know where I would even start, if I'm honest. So if anybody, and I'll trade you whiskey or something, money, whatever, whatever is the thing that you need. Yeah, and again, it doesn't need to be like complex. I just need just a few things to move around so it looks cool and kind of pops for the roll in. Doesn't have to be long, just 3 or 4 seconds. Yeah, so if anybody knows anybody that does that kind of stuff, that'd be awesome. Oh, wait, Ken's saying he can do that. Okay, well, Ken, we're gonna have to talk, and I do not doubt that you can do that. I'm sure that you can. All right, so Ken, let's see. I'm trying to think how I can get. Well, okay, so I can drop my email, because it's on my bourbon at Gmail. Nope, wrong thing. .com. There we go. Yeah, so there's my email, Ken. So get in touch with me, man, and I'll send you the images and let you play around with them. Yeah, so true. Yeah, again, this is not what I do. I work in construction and I drink whiskey. Those are the two things I'm fairly good at. Competent at is probably the better word. But animating things and coloring things and color schemes is not at all what I do. So yeah, there you go. Yeah, and I'll. Hey, what's up, Shane? Sorry, I missed you there earlier. What's up, buddy? Yeah. So Shane got me the Russell's pick right. Where is it? It's always hard backwards. Right. Oh, dang it. There-ish. This one. Anyway, thank you, Shane, for that. If anybody wants to hop on, because I kind of need a break, and yeah, somebody just like run this stream for like 5 seconds. Anyway, we are much better. It has been rough for a few weeks. Oh, yeah. So Trish, yeah, I'm glad that the thing you were worried about is not true. That was good news. So good to see that things aren't necessarily as bad as they could have been. But yeah, I can life does seem to get in the way. Yeah, so Ken, we'll talk more later, man. I will definitely get that to you, and let you play around with it. That'd be awesome, man. There you go. And there's the link to Scotch Down Under. Ken's awesome. Also, Ken has the only shirt in the world that has my logo on it. I probably should have done that myself, but Ken beat me to it. And good on Ken, because that's a great shirt. A lot of people already purchased it, so go check that out as well. Ken doing great stuff there. Got basically all of Whiskey Tube on one shirt, which is awesome. Okay, I'll check that out after the stream there, Ken. Appreciate you, man. What? Okay, mailing list subscriptions being added now. You like Bay on Boy? Oh, Boy on Boy. Okay. No. To be fair, count is 4. Greg giving one of those Russells away tonight. Oh, awesome. It's freaking sweet. Isn't that? Oh, okay. So, Ken, we need to talk about that as well. So, I got a couple of bottles. They're not. Well, I'm going to throw them in there. Hopefully, they get you some money. Yeah. So, me and Ben were talking about it. So, yeah, we're going to. Oh, so that's tonight. Okay. So, then as soon as I'm done here, we'll talk. Yeah. Yeah. So Ken, I got a couple to throw in the hat there. As long as whoever wins is within the 48, then we're good. Otherwise, we'll work out something, I guess. Not sure. Maybe if you're in some other country, then we'll work out shipping or whatever the thing. Anyway, so what's everybody drinking? Let's get back to some whiskey here. Actually, if you don't mind, folks, I need a break. So give me 2 minutes. I'll be right back. Yeah, and hopefully, again, if anyone wants to hop on and keep me company, that'd be great too. So I'll be back in 2. Trish, you have a great night as well. Thank you again for the logo. You're awesome. I hope that you and your family are doing well. I know that things are better than they could be, but still not great. But thoughts and prayers. I hope things continue to improve. Yeah. Cheers to you and your family. Templar, what's up, man? Cheers to you, buddy. Good to see you. Hey, you're not too late, man. We're still partying here on a Friday night. No, I didn't have time for that. Cue the elevator music. Yeah, sorry I didn't have anybody to keep you guys entertained in the meantime, but thank you for still hanging out. It will be tomorrow morning at 8:30. Okay, there you go. All right, so I will probably be asleep, but that doesn't mean that my bottles can't help out. Crazy party in the chat. There you go. Did someone drop an EMP? Yeah, yeah that's exactly what happened. Sean had his hat on too tight. Yeah, that's what. Honestly, I don't know if it's just from wearing this thing so much, but it seems like it gets hotter every week. I don't know. Yeah, something like that. It probably is shrinking from all the sweating, probably, because there's been a couple of hot nights down here in the summer where I, got a little sweaty. Coming in late. What's up, y'all? Hey, cheers to you, Woods. Good to see you, man. So again, folks, I need to wrap this up soon. So let me go ahead. We're going to do last call here. So Patreons, all five samples right there. 5 1-ounce samples going to Patreons. If you want extra entries, so again, these are what they are. The Corbin Cash 90 proof rye. The blended whiskey right here. The sweet potato liqueur, and also the cast strength rye, which is just it's so freaking good. I love that rye so much. Probably rye of the year, maybe rye of the decade. I don't know. It's awesome. And then also the 106 proof bourbon, which is also great. So all 5 of those samples to Patreons. Again, if you want extra entries, you can do that. And then to everybody else, first off, everybody else, if you want to become a Patreon, then you can do that and still get in tonight. So that way, you're potentially entered into both if you want to do that. But for everybody else, they're already packaged up, 2-ounce samples of everything that I just mentioned here as well. So there there's the blended whiskey. You got the Merced Rye, all those in there. Yeah. So again, that's for everybody. So however you want to do it, and then Patreons. If you are putting in money, then let me know where you want it to go. Whether you want it to go towards the Patreon or the 2-ounce samples, whatever you want to do, or both, or however you want to do it. So we'll give that another 10-15 minutes here, and then we'll wrap up because I know Ben is probably on, and I don't want to cut into him too much. So we'll chat for a little bit longer here, and then we'll do the giveaway and wrap up. So anyway, in the meantime, again, if anybody wants to hang out, then feel free. The link should be at the top. So where was I? Okay, there we go. Read that. Who are we from Old School Whiskey War chats besides Woods? So Jack, somebody mentioned Jack is in Kentucky. Going to be hanging out with him tomorrow, actually, which is awesome. We're going to be hitting up some distilleries, getting some good food, just hanging out, drinking some whiskey. Probably going to buy some stuff too. Probably going to hit up Bardstown, maybe Heaven Hill, maybe Barton. Just all the Bardstown distilleries. So we'll probably be going around that area there. Somebody that I haven't seen in a long time, talking about the old school crew, is Dimetron. Haven't seen him in months. I hope he's okay. Hopefully he's doing well. Not sure what happened to him. Used to call him the other Sean because he's also Sean. But haven't seen Dimetron in a minute, man. Oh, there you go. First night of sipping Maker's Mark 101. Not bad. Yeah, that's a good one, man. Good $40, $50 bottle. I enjoy that quite a bit. Cask strength will make your hat tight. Yeah, I would say. Yeah. Although, dang it, I need to stop hitting my mic. This cask strength rye, it does not drink like 123. I would say it drinks like maybe 110-ish. It's not like, it does not blow your palate up. It's very enjoyable. It's not super spicy. It's just such a good rye. So fantastic. I love the wood presence in it. So much of those sweet oak notes, which I really like. Lots of caramel and smoke and kind of that charry oak note. As I said in the review, which I know most of you guys have already seen, it's kind of like this smoked charred pineapple thing. There's almost like this kind of like smoked ham kind of thing going on. Just caramelized fruits and meats and wood. Yeah, it's good. There you go. Yeah. AZ on the same page as me. Yeah. Dimetron. Yeah. I don't know what happened to him. I don't know what happened to Dimetron. Hopefully he's doing well. I have not seen him in a long time. And Jack is in Kentucky whooping it up. Ethan is grabbing the set up now to join. Oh, awesome. Sweet. Let's see here. Sean, I'll do one of each, brother. One Patreon and one chat. Yes. Okay, cool. Yeah, I saw that earlier, Bobby, and I'll definitely throw you on both wheels. Jack said Turkey is closed. Yeah, so the gift shop is. The gift shop is closed, and I guess tours are as well. They're doing like some remodeling. Turkey's like kind of redoing their whole property. So that's why that single warehouse release, what the heck is that? Whatever that Russell's was that came out, that's like super allocated and impossible to find, and also way too expensive. That's why, because like Turkey's just redoing their whole property. So, so a lot of the stuff is closed down in Turkey, which sucks. Because that was one of the ones that me and Jack were talking about that we were going to hope to meet up at, but there's really no reason to go because you can't really do anything there. I was told that OF is releasing it's already out. Yeah, so King Ranch is already out. Anyone hear anything about it? I'm keeping the eyes peeled. So Mark, Mr. Great Shot, he already got one. I think also Eric, the Barbarian, he got one as well. I haven't really heard any reviews from them yet. But yeah, they're definitely out there already. So I'm curious because I believe it's finished in mesquite barrels, or there's mesquite in there somewhere. To some degree, there's mesquite influence. I forget exactly how Old Forester did it, but here we go. Getting some company here. How we doing, Turks? Good to see you guys.
What's
Hey,
going on,
cheers, Sean.
Cheers to you
buddy.
guys. Actually,
How you doing?
I have nothing to cheers you with. Let's change that.
I have beer to cheers you with.
There we go. Yeah. Actually, I need to save that. I want to drink the 90 proofer, but I want to save some for you guys and Todd. So let me grab something else totally. That way I don't use up stuff for samples. Yeah, I'm going to grab some Balcones cast ring. This seems like the right thing at this point.
Heck yeah.
So, Katie, you said you're on a beer. What are you sipping on?
It is a breakfast stout from Founders.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
We've had it for about a year, so.
Oh, yeah. So let it kind of mature, let's say.
No, I don't know.
That's the one with the baby on the front, right?
It is.
You got it.
So
Yeah.
oatmeal stout, double chocolate oatmeal stout.
That is a good one.
I'm a fan.
And Ethan, what are you having? That does not look like a beer. If it is, it's a very light beer.
It is not a beer. Are we still good?
Yeah. So your picture has frozen a little, but your audio is fine.
Huh. Okay. Weird. I'll take a look in just a second. But yeah, so I am drinking. It's a small batch select from New England Barrel Company, and so I think they're blending Green River and MGP barrels.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so who bought Green River?
Bardstown.
Yep.
Okay, that's right. Yeah,
Good old Bardstown.
there you go. They're buying up everything, it seems like, but
They are.
and good on them. Yeah, there you go. Okay, now we're back in the present picture wise.
Okay. Yeah, it's I'm trying out. Apparently now you can use your iPhone as a camera. And so it
Interesting.
worked really well at first and then stopped completely. So
Fair enough. That's kind of cool though. I didn't even know you could do that. Interesting.
yeah, it's a new feature in the new version of OS X. But obviously there's some kinks to work out there, right?
Yeah, I mean the audio was still clear, like it was perfect, but yeah, the picture just totally froze. But oh well.
Yeah, we picked up these little wireless mics, and they're perfect, man. I love them.
We're finally home too, so that's
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So now that it's just us, I didn't want to like chat them. Who were we on the other night together? When I was asking you guys about if you were home or not, we were on a stream. I forget where, but anyway. Yeah. So will next Friday work for you guys? Is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll put it on the calendar. Like that totally works for us.
Awesome.
We were thinking tonight, did you want us to send you a blind or something? Because we can get it to you like midweek. Or just samples, like whatever you want.
I still have all of your samples to go through. So like I've been waiting for us to go live together. So yeah, so there other than the one, I did open the one with you guys what was it last
the cognac
week?
finish, yeah.
But the rest of them are still unopened. So yeah, I got plenty to go through.
Awesome.
Okay.
Yeah, we have the same. Like we saved all your samples. We brought them with us just in case like something worked out while we were on the road, but it was just so crazy.
No, that's fine. No, I'm happy to finally have you guys on. It's going to be fun. And there's a lot of stuff there that I've never. Well, I'm basically everything I've never had. So it'll be interesting.
Awesome.
Yeah.
We need to get you some more out. We found some old Sagamore finishes while we were out. A cognac finish, a port finish. We got the new sherry finish. So we need to throw some more stuff your way.
Okay. Well, I've gotten some new interesting things. Although, I feel like it's hard for me to find things that you guys don't have because you guys travel so much. It's like, what do the Turks not have? But hopefully something. Hopefully I've run across something that will kind of spark your interest. So
I mean, you
no
always
worries,
do,
man.
though.
It's about hanging out, right?
um,
That's what we're here
so
for.
have you had any of these Balcones single malt picks?
We have
Okay.
not.
All right. So have you had the regular release?
So we had the True Blue, the original True Blue,
We've
Mhm.
had
and we have a rye that we haven't opened, but it was like $35 at Specs when we were visiting my family in Houston. So we picked it up.
and we've had a pour or two here or there, but nothing that's really knocked our socks off. But I've heard those single malt picks are like that's the best thing they do. That's what I've heard.
I mean, now granted, I like Texas bourbon pretty much across the board, other than there's some Garrison Brothers that I could live without. Which I think a lot of people,
Brothers is.
well, so there's that problem, the price point, and then as well, I mean, so I don't know if Bobby's still here. I assume he still is. He was just chatting not too long ago. So, so he actually sent me his small batch because he did not like it at all. Like he wanted to actually take an axe to the bottle.
Oh, wow.
And so I just kind of jokingly said in a lie, like, "Well, send it my way," because I hadn't really had anything from Garrison Brothers up to that point that I didn't like. That said, I'd had more of their high end stuff. So like the Balmore, I loved that bottle. I mean, so it was in my top 10 last year. And the Guadalupe is okay. It's not my favorite. And then the Cowboy I got from Joe. I got a sample of that from Joe, and that was really good. But the small batch is at really any price point, it's not good. But it's like $80, so it's really not good for $80. Yeah. So, but outside of that, I really haven't had any. Now, I've not had the normal True Blue, which I know that turns off a lot of people from Balcones. But I've had the cast strength. Now, it was a pick that I got from Fancies. And I really liked that, but I've not had the standard expression. So I don't know how much different they are. But there's certainly some funky notes there that I can imagine, people may not enjoy as much as I do. But I kind of like that Texas funk, whatever that is. It's kind of, I kind of describe it as maybe like a prune or plum note, like a really ripe plum or prune, maybe.
Okay.
And Chattanooga kind of has that thing going on, maybe not quite to that level, but there's kind of,
it's that malty.
Yeah. So with Texas, right? It's so for me, and I haven't had that much Texas whiskey. We found a couple of brands. So like I think we've talked about it. TX does some really cool stuff. I haven't seen it outside of Texas itself, but when we're down in Houston visiting Katie's family, we'll see a lot of TX stuff on the shelves there at Specs. Still Austin, of course, great stuff. Hardly Texas whiskey, honestly, as far as the flavor profile. But we got a pick recently from Irene Tam up at Canterbury Liquors in Connecticut. And it's
from Devil's River.
From Devil's River. And oh my God, man. It is fan-freaking-tastic. Like, that's...
See, I don't even know about them. I don't know about them at all. I don't think
It's a 2+ year Texas whiskey that just will knock your socks off.
Yeah.
If we can get it before next Friday, we'll send it out to you because like it just blows your mind.
Yeah.
Like as far as Texas.
Now I've only had a very small sample of what is the Iron Root spacing
Harbinger?
here. That's it, the Harbinger. And I like that. Have you guys had much of that stuff? Any of the Iron Root stuff?
So we have had a pour.
One pour of a Harbinger, like from 3 or 4 years ago.
I think it was the one of the Bastards Ball picks. The Whiskey Tubers did.
Yeah, and it was really good.
It was good.
And we had like one of the originals, but it was it was missing something, right? Right at the proof, it was just missing something. So we put it in a barrel, and it was better. But I've heard their stuff has changed over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
So like the palate was just kind of hollow in the middle of the, like you're just kind of.
It was just lacking. Like you had a big like front palate and then like nothing.
Yeah.
It was lower proof, I think, though. I think
it was like
94. Yeah. So it was a little lower proof. And for us, it just didn't really shine at that proof point. But The pick that we had, the cash strength pick, was pretty damn good.
Cool, man. Yeah. Like I said, I've only had one sample of that, and it was roughly a year ago. But yeah, so I did enjoy it though.
Yeah.
So wait, what's this? Yeah. Email bounced? I didn't know that. What does that even mean?
I think he means it didn't, like, he did return to sender kind of thing.
Did
Probably
I type it wrong?
The address, yeah. You typed it as like a SOMMAH bourbon.
Yeah, it probably has something to do with the amount of whiskey I've had, I would imagine.
That's understandable.
Understandable.
See if I can get it right this time. Let me double. Okay, that's.
It was also pre-break. You were probably a little antsy.
Yeah, I was kind of getting the shakes, you know. All right, let's try that, Ken. Oh man, I'm way behind on chat as well. I'm just realizing. Wow. Okay. Yeah, because the official release date is Monday for King. Okay, interesting. Yeah, I've not seen it. Have you guys seen the King Ranches at all around?
Mm-mm.
Oh, I've seen a ton of posts about it, like at Specs in Houston, but haven't seen it around, you know.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm, obviously, I know a lot about that ranch, like, just historically. I mean, it's kind of a cool place. And at one point we owned a King Ranch truck, and if nothing else, maybe nostalgia, I guess is the right word. I kind of want. I may not like it at all. I'm curious because I know there's some kind of like mesquite smoke thing they got. I forget exactly what they did with it, but so I'm curious to see what that's going to be like exactly. But yeah, well, I trust Old Forester. I think
it'll be interesting. Like for me, that mesquite note is some of the ways. Like that's one of the big ways that Texas whiskey can go wrong, right? When it gets that woody for me, it almost goes mesquite, and that's a bad note for me.
The one mesquite I will say that we've had is the Tennessee Taster from Jack Daniels.
That's true.
It was a mesquite, and it was like discounted to like $20 right after we moved to Tennessee, and it was like, all right.
Oh, you're thinking hickory?
Hickory.
It was the hickory. Yeah. Mesquite just gets so potent. It's like, man. Oof.
I would imagine that's true. That's kind of my fear about this King Ranch. So, I mean, hopefully it's balanced. Yeah. I know Balcones also has a mesquite. What is it? Their brimstone or whatever. I've not had that, but and I've seen it around, but I'm cautious because I feel like that's a flavor profile that could really take over pretty quick if you're not really careful about. So I don't know, like just in general, I'm not big on mesquite as a flavor. Like even in barbecue, I know there's a lot of guys like, oh, you got to use mesquite. Well, that's not really my thing. So I prefer other woods. So yeah, I don't know. I'm curious, so I'll buy it anyway.
It's super cool, right? I'm glad they're doing that. It kind of makes me wonder if Old Forester might look at one of those Texas distilleries to try and branch out, right? Because we're always wondering what the next targets for acquisitions are, and
because they just Brown-Forman bought that barrel company.
Yeah, they bought West Virginia Barrel Company, or 80% of it.
Or 80%.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm interested. I think it'd be really cool if Old Forester had, if you had the Texas whiskey flavor profile with a really good master taster, master blender, right? Really calling the shots. I think that's one of the reasons I like TX. Actually, I've seen or I've heard their master taster on Bourbon Pursuit podcast before. I don't remember what episode it was. It was semi-recent, last 2 months. Really, really cool girl. I think woman. I say girl, she's a little bit younger than me, right? But really knew her stuff from the chemistry side of it, and really sounded like she was enjoying what she was doing. And the Texas stuff with the TX stuff that we've had, their brand name is the worst thing in the world for me. It's TX brand. I always want to call it Texas. Really good stuff coming out of there and getting better and better every time I have it.
Yeah, and just to your point, Ethan, I think that's why Still Austin is so amazing
Yeah.
because Fraley's behind it and
Yep.
she's just killing it.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I got a couple guys down in Texas, Lou being one of them.
Yeah.
And then also Mark from Mr. Great Shot. They're both looking for some Texas stuff. One of which is Nancy Fraley, Still Austin cast strength picks.
Yeah.
So did they get their most recent release? Was it called Monster Mash or something like that released this week?
So I was communicating with Mark, Mr. Great Shot, and unfortunately he was not able to get there before they sold out, which they sold out pretty quickly. So
it was like within 12 minutes online. Like,
oh wow, okay.
Yeah, I mean, it was very quick online.
Yeah. I mean, if nothing else, I just wanted it for the bottle. Like that was such a cool looking bottle. The artwork on that was great. But also, I'm sure it was amazing. And just based on the flavor notes that they were saying you were getting, it sounded awesome. But oh well, it's gone.
I mean, I've seen, so like we're part of the Baton Rouge Bourbon Society, and they're huge into Still Austin. Like they're getting one of the first like picks, right? But they recently talked about their rye that Still Austin is coming out with, and how like really interesting and unique it is. And I'm like, all right, we got to get our hands on that, right? It should be really good.
Yeah, I just there's so much. I know that like Texas gets a lot of hate, but I'm just I mean, it's kind of been my thing this year is just discovering Texas whiskey because not a lot of it shows up here in Kentucky.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to get some from folks that are down there, and so far there's only been a couple that I didn't necessarily enjoy, and the worst one was by far the Garrison Brothers small batch. Thank you, Bobby, for sharing though. Yeah, awesome on you for sending it my way. Very generous because I mean to send an 80 bottle of whiskey, regardless of how you feel about it, that's still a big loss. So thank you for sending it over and letting me review it. It's not great. Gotta say, don't spend your $80 there. And yes, AZ, there is a King Ranch edition of the F-150, and I guess also F-250s. I don't know what the whole idea. It doesn't matter.
And I can't remember if we mentioned it to you, but like there was a place called Whitmeyer's, like Yellow Rose. I think it's Yellow Rose, right?
No, Whitmeyer's is a different distillery.
No. But what is the other one that's down in like the Houston area?
Yellow Rose.
Yellow Rose.
As well, yeah.
Whitmeyer's is actually doing a blend between MGP and their own juice. But we went to Whitmeyer's when it was like a couple miles from the townhouse where we were renting in Houston. And we went to a steak dinner there and we got to try their, special releases, their normal products. But they actually had one that was Hurricane Harvey. In Harvey, they flooded. And so it was like a flood barrel, like a tornado barrel for Blue Note or whatnot. But it is unique. Like it is potent, but it is good.
So it looks like Commandante Lou is chiming in about Whitmeyer's. Like their blends are real deal.
Yeah, their blends are real deal. We'll try to get you some out before.
Yeah. We've got a couple of bottles now.
Yeah, we'll try to send them out in the next couple of days before next Friday for sure. Just so you can have them, taste them, whatever.
Yeah,
they're just super unique.
Y'all have been very generous already, so don't feel like you
Come
guys
on,
need
man.
to hurry up.
Come on.
I mean, I have nearly a dozen samples still to get through, so.
Well, make it 15.
Yeah.
But like you mentioned Texas, right? And when we find good Texas stuff, we want to share it. And Whitmeyer's is one that they're pretty much unheard of. I haven't seen them outside of Specs in Houston. I'm sure they make their rounds, probably in Dallas and some areas around there. But I think it really is the fact that blending their juice with MGP, it lets them kind of round some of the rough edges. It probably bring in some of the younger MGP notes, right? That apple, and kind of augment that flavor profile. And it just.
Yeah, I think that would if nothing else, help people get into Texas whiskey because
Yeah.
it's kind of like a taboo thing right now.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to view my Cash App while also talking. It's not working great. Like I don't know if they changed stuff, but it's like it's not. Okay, here we go. Here's the thing I'm looking for. Anyway, so like I feel like those darker, maybe some would even say there's certainly some tannic notes and some Texas whiskey that I don't mind necessarily. Maybe some drawing notes, and just those really dark. See, I love the dark, like black coffee, like the dark chocolate, those really dark fruits, maybe even overripe dark fruits.
Mm-hmm.
I love all those notes, but I know that it's not for everybody. But I mean, I like all those things in real life as well. I mean, I love dark chocolate. I love black coffee. So, like that's just my thing. But I know that that's not for everybody. So I feel like the brighter notes of MGP would certainly kind of balance that. And it sounds like a really interesting blend. So.
Yeah, it's cool, and they're doing it at like 115 proof or something, so they're keeping it at a really good proof point. I'm just really liking what they're doing. So yeah, coming on Telu. We lived in Houston for about 4 years. 4 years, yeah. Katie's family still lives there. We still go down
in the Woodlands.
Yeah, just north of Houston in the Woodlands. But we're the Turks, right? Drifting Drams is our channel. It's fledgling. We're kind of still getting it started, but mostly we're here to hang out, right? This is what we're here for.
Yeah, mods, if you could. Not a ton of people watching, but still, if you could, please drop the link. I probably should have said that way earlier, like when you guys first got on.
You're good,
no. You're good.
Yeah, the whiskey is doing things.
As it should.
So you guys have been very generous tonight, I see, as you always are. No, I said you guys have been very generous tonight, I see, which you always are.
I don't know what you're talking about, Sean.
Exactly, yeah. I don't know what happened. All right, so thank you as well. I didn't even had not really paid attention to who was putting in, but thank you guys. You're awesome. So
you're some of the best, Sean. Like seriously.
I don't think you're right on that, Katie, but I appreciate the compliment anyway.
No. I mean, I remember the day we met you at Bardstown. Like that was like a highlight of our day that day to meet you cool. And Paul, Whiskey Food Dude, like just
and Northwest Bourbon.
And Northwest Bourbon, like just to chat with y'all for a few minutes. Like that was fantastic.
Yeah. They are some great guys, and yeah, I mean Paul, I mean, and Mark too, but I mean Paul is just one of the most genuinely nice guys I've met through whiskey, and just I don't know how he's as generous. What I mean by that, like he's so generous. I worry that he's spending all his money on us. Like he buys so much stuff to bring to meetups and stuff. It's just, I mean, like, so he must have brought 12.5 of these Jack picks to the Kentucky meetup. And these things are not, I mean, these are like $40-$50 a piece. I was like, wow, man. Like, that's like a crazy gift to bring to a meetup.
Well, and he brought the old Kirk, didn't he? To the
meetup? He gave me, so he brought the old Kirk and he said, and like he pulls me aside and he said, hey, after we're done here, just take that home with you. I'm like, dude, like then you already gave me a Jack pick. Like, yeah. And then the time before that, when I met up with them, he gave me, well, it's out of reach, but the Chattanooga Founders.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Paul is just like, I can never repay him because he's always giving me way more than I can give back. So, yeah.
He's the salt of the earth, like just genuine.
And Mark too. I mean, Mark's a great guy. I mean, it was such a good day. I mean, just hang out with them, getting to meet you guys, which just happened to work out that way that you guys were there. It was awesome. Yeah. It was an awesome day.
Yeah, it was really great to see you that day. Like we had no idea we'd see you. Like we had met with Bourbon a couple days before, just randomly. Like he drove up to Louisville, and then he was like, "We might be in Bardstown," and it was like, "Oh, here y'all are in the gift shop," right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And it was the only disappointing side of that was that Bardstown didn't have anything that any of us wanted to buy that day. It was just kind of a downtime for them. I guess they were on like Disco 7, I guess, which had a lot of the white whiskey in it, which is is fine. It's just not really my thing.
Right.
And
Part
then
of that Canadian too.
yeah, and then they also had that rum finished release, which again was cool, but it wasn't like 150 good.
Yeah, that's fair.
And yeah. So have you guys been recently down that way? I guess you haven't because you've been up north, right?
So the last time we went to Bardstown, we went for Matt's release when his blend came out, and we saw like Gary Franchi, Blake Benson,
Ernie Brubaker,
all of them down there, and they still had the same thing. They didn't have any of the triple stave that day, but they still had the Plantation, Disco 7. But I mean, we enjoy going down there.
Okay.
Yeah, because we'll know tomorrow for sure. But so me and Jacob, we're going to be there tomorrow, and so I don't know if they're going to have Disco 8 or 9. Either way, I'll probably end up getting both at some point. Have you guys had either one yet?
Disco 8 is fantastic, and we are on the lookout for it. Like, we check our local quite often for it.
All right, well that's good
7
to know.
around here.
What's that?
We're still seeing 7 around here. There's a couple of little shops that'll have them, but it's just like anything else, right? They're not going to buy more Bardstown Discovery Series when they've still got 7 on the shelf. And we're outside of Jackson, Tennessee, so it's not a huge whiskey area. So some bottles, especially higher priced bottles, tend to sit, and so sometimes we'll have to wait a little bit before they'll order the new version.
Yeah, that's kind of the downside of being in a small market. Same here. I mean, there's 22,000 people in the whole county that I'm in. So, and also it's a fairly poor county. So the expensive bottles do not move quickly. Especially if they're not hitters, that whiskey people are after. They kind of they sit around a while. And then you get the same problem you were just describing. That like the store's like, well, I'm not buying that again. So yeah.
But at the same time, like, we've lucked out, right? Like last year, right around this time, like we went into one of the stores around here, and we found Disco 4 on the shelf for like $140, and it was like, bring it, right?
That's the one thing that never happens in Kentucky. Nothing ever gets marked down in Kentucky ever. I've never. I mean, other than Kroger, but those are just kind of shelfer bottles. It's nothing amazing. Occasionally they'll get in. I mean, I did get my Old Forester single barrel proof there. So occasionally, they will get a nice bottle like that, but most of the time it's just kind of standard stuff. But the big bottles I've never seen like a clearance rack or it just doesn't happen here.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to let you guys take the floor so I can. I'm just realizing I'm 45 minutes into Ben's stream, and he's gonna curse me out later. I can feel it. So I'll let you guys just kind of entertain the people while I get these wheels together, and make sure everybody's getting put in for the stuff, and then we'll do our giveaway, and then we can chat backstage.
Yeah, let's do it, man.
Sounds great, man.
Ask the Turks questions. They know way more than I do. So ask them.
That's not true.
Ask them all of your whiskey questions. They literally travel the country buying whiskey. So,
so I see Hangin' AZ asked a few minutes ago about the Tennessee Tasters. So those are some half bottles that Jack was doing. They've been doing them since I think 17 or 18.
17, I think. And now they're the Distiller's Reserve or Distiller's Collection.
Yeah,
right?
So they just rebranded them. So it's the same like little hit flask 375 bottle. But now they're the Distiller's Select or Distiller's Collection or something like that. Unfortunately, people have also caught on to how good they can be. And so sometimes, like it used to be, you'd see them sit for a little while, but you don't see them sit anymore. We actually just went in our local today, and they had one.
And it was the High Toast.
Yeah, one of the High Toast. And so they released 2. two different ones, and one total is what we saw on the shelf just now.
And we were just there yesterday at like noon, and
So
we
they
were
just
there
hit.
at 6 o'clock, and they had one. They had space for both, but still just had one.
Yeah. So the word is out on them. They're not easy to find, even here in Tennessee. Good luck. If you do find them, they are almost always worth it. They're not cheap bottle. They're 40-ish for a half bottle.
30 to 37, 38 to 47.
Yeah, depending on where you're at. Tennessee also has a lovely
10%.
Yeah, it was an extra. Most places have a 20% markup. Tennessee is a 30%. Excuse me. So everything's a little bit more expensive here. So it's a little bit higher. But again, they're worth it. And every once in a while, we found our local had, I guess they'd gotten a couple of cases of the Hickory one from 2018. It's a unique bottle, but it's a really good bottle. We really enjoyed it. We bought 6 or 8 of them from that store. Just
And
really
sent 'em
good
around.
stuff. Yeah, we've been sending them to people, and really interesting being a Hickory finish. But it's kind of like their test bed, right? They like to throw that out there and see what sticks. That's how they originally did the barrel proof ryes. That's how Jack did those originally. And so really good stuff coming out there. But some of them are polarizing.
Yeah. It looks like Eric might have asked what Bourbon's channel is. So I think it's just Bourbon's Bourbon, right?
Yeah,
it's nearly impossible to search on YouTube.
Yeah.
But he's working on that part. But yeah, that is what it is. Yeah, it's
Bourbon's
just YouTube.
Bourbon, something like that.
Yeah, Bourbon, BOURBEN''S Bourbon. So
I'm just about done.
Yeah, all good, man. It's not far off of what you'd expect it to be, but like Sean said, it's not easy to find. Especially it's not easy to find any smaller channels. But normally, if you type in the name, it comes right up. But his
does not.
Yeah, whether it's a weird spelling, I guess it's probably trying to correct bourbons to bourbon and then bourbon as well. And so there's something weird with the algorithm. It doesn't like him.
No. Yeah, I mean, literally, if you can type in the exact channel name and it does not come up, it won't show up in your search results. So, yeah, it's a weird YouTube thing. Real quick, for those of you that are still here, there's only 3 people entered into the 2-ounce sample giveaway, and Turks, one of them, Bad Axe Bourbon are the other, and Mash Bill. So pretty good odds. Gonna give you guys 5 minutes. I'm gonna go ahead and do the Patreon giveaway right now, and then we'll do the other thing. So yeah, last chance on that. Actually, let me double check, make sure we didn't gain a Patreon. That would be bad.
I think you gained 1.
Thanks, Commodore Lou, for posting that.
Yeah, Commandante Lou found Bourbon's channel, so there you go. That's the easiest way to find it.
Again, the Turks just you guys.
What?
You're too much. No, thank you.
We are not.
You guys are awesome.
Katie's a lot. Don't worry.
Right, I'm a lot. He deals with,
Oh, we're all a lot. Me and my wife disagree every day about who's the worst of us, but we tolerate each other, and whiskey helps. So,
does she
no, thank
enjoy
you
whiskey?
guys.
I've never asked. Does she enjoy?
To a degree, she's so I give her whiskey about once or twice a week. So earlier I was talking about this. She loved this. She has drank more of this than I have, actually.
Yeah.
Which is why you have this much left.
Yeah. So the rye is basically gone. But yeah, and I do like this. I mean, it's really interesting. It's way different than anything else I've had. But yeah, but she really likes that, and it's a sweet potato liqueur plus a Merced rye, which I don't know where else you would even get that. I think there's 0 other places that are offering that thing. So it's a really unique profile. Yeah, but let me get to this here. What was the link I posted for your? There you go. Yes. Is that it?
I'm not sure. My phone is up away from me. I can't check. But Drifting Drams is the channel name.
Yep, that's it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Awesome.
perfect.
Anyway, Patreons, and thank you, Turks, our newest Patreon. You guys are awesome. You're the best. Let's go ahead and get this giveaway on the road here. Let me share this wheel. And so, just so everybody knows, because we've had problems with the wheel in the past, ends up the wheel is not very random. Okay, there's the right wheel. So here's how we do it now. So since you guys are my guess, you guys pick a number between, let's see, what are our numbers tonight? Numbers between 1 and 27. And then we're going to randomize or shuffle the wheel 3 times. And from the top down, whatever number that ends up being will be the person that gets it. So
14.
Okay. Katie says 14.
14. Okay. Let's get to our wheel here. Okay. You seeing that good? Yeah, I guess it's big enough. Here, let me actually take that comment down. There we go. That makes it better. All right. So we're going to shuffle 3 times and 14 down from the top. What do we got? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 is Doug H. 14 is T-Rob. I don't think he's here right now, right? Did I count right? Let me double check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Yeah. Okay. So T-Rob gets the Patreon sample. Hopefully he's excited about that. I didn't see him tonight.
Congrats, T-Rob.
Congrats, T-Rob.
Yeah. So yeah, there we go. These going out to T-Rob. Awesome, man. So that's that. Let me just last check any last minute entries here. I don't think so, but I don't want to miss anybody. So refresh both the things. The internet would be slightly faster. Okay, so that's good. And double checking PayPal just to make sure. Come on, do a thing. Yeah, we're good. Okay. And now for the other sample giveaway, which I would say that pretty good chances here because basically just 3 people on the board. So let's see. Of course, either way, Turks, you're going to be getting this either way. So you might be getting double samples. There you go.
We can't get double samples.
Yeah,
so if we win some.
Oh, you're getting double samples. There we go. Okay.
Bold.
All right. What do I need to do? So for this, I think we'll just roll the wheel because yeah. Here we go. I mean, that seems fair. You were half the wheel, so that seems fair to me. No, yeah.
You said you were going to give a sample, so pick somebody else that.
Well,
let's make sure this if this stuff is as great as you say, which I trust you.
Okay, all right.
As many people as possible, you know.
Yeah.
All right. So I mean, oh, okay. Well, I mean, so it's just so all right. So you want me to just take you guys off then?
Yeah, just take us off.
Great.
Completely take us off.
All right then. So it's between Bad Axe Bourbon and Stanley. I feel like Stanley has pretty good odds here.
He sure does.
It's 2-1.
Let's test math.
Watch it be Bad Axe. Oh,
hey,
it's
math
Stanley.
wins.
There you go.
Math wins.
Cheers, Stanley.
All righty. Cheers to you, Stanley. And yeah. Actually, I need to send him some other stuff anyway. So, but also I got to send Bobby stuff also. So yeah, either way it works out. Just got here. What was it? Oh, sorry, man. Yeah, it's done now. But we were giving away all the Corbin Cash stuff, which is awesome. Sorry you missed that. But it's going to Stanley. Stanley's going to get some Corbin Cash. Anyway, we're gonna sign off because I'm nearly an hour into Ben's stream, and he's gonna. He will be upset with me some, but if you're seeing this, Ben, my apologies. I've just been having too much fun tonight. Anyway, you guys go watch Ben. Go support him. I'll hang out with the Turks here. We'll talk whiskey, and I'm going to try and sober up, sort of. so I can continue talking. Anyway, thank you guys. Thank you everybody for hanging out. Again, cheers to David, Corbin Cash for sending all this great stuff. Go check them out. Check out the Turks over at Drifting Drams. There's the link right there. Yeah, go show them some love. If you haven't, okay, let's not hit the mic. If you haven't subbed yet, please go do that. Yeah, and they're great people, obviously. Look at them; they're awesome. Cheers to everybody. Good night.
Cheers.
We will see you next week. And next week, the Turks will be on with me the whole night. So, yeah, there will be more of this next week. So, tune in for that. We're going to be doing some, I don't know about blinds, but we'll be drinking a lot of whiskey. So, yeah, either way, it's going to be awesome. Cheers to you guys. Cheers, Turks. And we're out. See you guys next week.
Cheers, y'all.
Cheers.